Chapter 26. Busy time always passes quickly. Shen Xingyan worked selflessly in the wheat field. Unconsciously, his stay in Xingyuan today was about to reach the limit, and the frequency of Xingyuan prompts began to slow down. Seeing this situation, Shen Xingyan, who was exhausted and out of breath, finally breathed a sigh of relief. According to this level, after he left Xingyuan world, there shouldn't be any problem leaving the rest to Wang Ke and the others. After eating 2 buns, he restored his strength in the Xingyuan world, and bought a small straw hat for Wang Ke in the Xingyuan shopping mall and put it on his head as a reward. After all, Wang Ke was the captain he recommended, so there must be something different between him and the other skeletons, so as to show the deterrent power that a leader should have. Although Shen Xingyan didn't know whether his idea would work among the skeletons, he was happy to think so and manage the little skeletons with human thinking. Shen Xingyan saw that Xingyuan had started the countdown to remind him. After giving Wang Ke the instructions after he left, he clicked log off and returned to the real world. As soon as he returned to the real world, Shen Xingyan's stomach began to protest strongly and started to growl. After checking the Xingyuan card, he found that the physical strength value had dropped to 6 points. If he waited for a few more hours, he would probably reach the limit of weakness. Shen Xingyan hurried into the kitchen, prepared some food for himself, and started to eat. When he returned to the real world before, he was in a hurry because he was thinking about the maintenance work of the wheat field after cooking for his sister. He even forgot to put some food in his own stomach. As a result, he was so hungry that he felt dizzy. After I filled my stomach a little, the feeling gradually disappeared. Shen Xingyan was making breakfast for him and his sister, exhausted. At this moment, his sister's door opened. Shen Xingyan rubbed his eyes and shouted sleepily, "Brother, you finally came out." Shen Xingyan, who was concentrating on cooking, was startled when he suddenly heard a sound behind him. After all, in this area close to the outer border, danger could happen at any time. If there are unknown sounds around, the first rule of survival is to hide and wait for rescue. For this reason, Shen Xingyan's parents dug a cellar at home for hiding in case of such emergencies. Startled, Shen Xingyan turned around and saw that it was his sister. He was relieved and said, "Why did you wake up? Did my brother disturb you while cooking?" "No, I haven't slept much, just waiting for you. Here, this is for you." Shen Xingyan said as he handed over the card in his hand. "What is this?" Shen Xingyan took it subconsciously, until he saw the familiar Star Source logo on the card, then he suddenly remembered that this was a temporary reward card, which cost 100 copper coins to make one, and was used for temporary storage of Star Source coins. Whenever he won awards in school competitions before, he would directly exchange the card-making fee of 100 copper coins for corresponding supplies. However, he was somewhat unfamiliar with this card. And what Shen Xingyan said next also confirmed his thoughts. "I won first place in the competition organized by the school today. This is a reward. There are 2,000 copper coins in it." When she said this, Shen Xingyan's sleepy face unconsciously revealed a proud smile, and she sighed softly, "Your sister, can also make money to support the family." Shen Xingyan was very moved by his sister's performance. He rubbed her hair and said softly, "Yes, our sister has grown up." Then he patted her shoulder to show encouragement. Since his sister was already awake, Shen Xingyan decided to eat before going to bed. The meal was ready in a short while. The brother and sister ate this breakfast full of hope and happiness on this quiet night. The brother and sister could no longer resist the sleepiness after the meal. They packed up hastily and went back to their rooms to fall into a deep sleep. The surprise given by Xingyuan world today made Shen Xingyan's mouth curl up unconsciously. Until Shen Xingyan woke up naturally from his sleep, he opened his eyes and found that it was almost noon. Shen Xingyan slept too soundly this time, and neither his biological clock nor his alarm clock worked. But this sufficient sleep not only allowed his spirit to fully recover, but also allowed his entire body to get maximum rest. The comfortable feeling made him not want to get up. This is also the norm for most professionals. With the existence of the Star Source world, even the worst profession does not need to consider the most basic survival issues. As long as they complete their work in the Star Wish world, they can have no worries. Most of the living professionals do not need to fight, so they have no intention of training in reality. The improvement of combat professionals in the Star Source world is more obvious, which also leads to the fact that they will not choose to waste their energy in the real world. Even if they have free time, they will only use it to recuperate. But Shen Xingyan is an idealistic farmer whose goal is to go out and kill disasters. How can he allow himself to degenerate? After forcing himself to cheer up, Shen Xingyan started his day's exercise. I don't know if it was because his body got enough rest, or if the quantitative change accumulated from Shen Xingyan's exercise led to a qualitative change, but after exercising today, he clearly felt a different feeling. He quickly took out the Star Source card to check his real-life attributes, only to see that the physical fitness point which was previously 11 points now displayed the number 12. Sure enough, the training in reality is effective if you persist. Although it becomes more difficult in the later stages, there is always hope. Looking at the attribute points he had worked so hard to obtain, Shen Xingyan couldn't hide the smile on his face. In about a week, he had gained 2 attribute points through real-life training. 2 attribute points in the real world are equivalent to 20 gold coins plus 2 attribute points in the Xingyuan world. From this perspective, Shen Xingyan's training in reality is much more valuable than the crops harvested in the planting space. But he knew that this was not the way to calculate the accounts. One was long-term benefit, the other was the accumulated gain over time, and the two could not be compared. His 2 powerful skills have destined him to grow faster as time goes by, but the training and improvement in reality has become slower and slower, and his stamina is far from keeping up with the former. That is to say, Shen Xingyan has the little skeleton to help him farm, so he has the energy and time to exercise in real life. If it were other farmers, let alone exercise, they would not even do slightly strenuous exercise. Shen Xingyan withdrew his somewhat excited thoughts, ate something, took out the Xingyuan card, and entered the Xingyuan world. Chapter 27. In the professional space, Wang Ke was doing farm work while checking on the work of the other skeletons from time to time. If there were any who did not work within the prescribed scope, or made mistakes or omissions, he would go up and beat them up, perfectly executing Shen Xingyan's instructions. At this time, Wang Ke looked like a manager, and the straw hat on his head was the symbol of his managerial status. When Shen Xingyan returned to his professional space, he saw Wang Ke and the others working, and he felt relieved. He felt at ease just thinking about having younger brothers working for him all the time. He didn't have to worry about the problem of reduced production and lower quality of wheat fields after he left because no one would manage them. Experiencing this feeling, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but sigh. This should be the reason why those bosses like to start companies before the energy explosion. This feeling is quite refreshing. Moreover, their employees will complain and be passive at work, but the little skeletons will not. They will only follow their instructions and execute orders tirelessly. They can be said to be absolutely excellent employees. However, their shortcomings are also obvious, that is, they can't speak and have no way to communicate with me. This makes me unconsciously become talkative after staying here for a day. In order to make some familiar sounds appear in this quiet space, I always have to talk to myself from time to time. Shen Xingyan put away his confused thoughts, looked at the changed wheat seedlings, and nodded involuntarily. The work results of the little skeletons were quite significant, and the growth of the wheat seedlings now looked gratifying. At this time, the cooldown time of his talent skill has also been completed. Shen Xingyan did not delay and directly activated his innate skill and chanted softly. During the chanting, his seventh little skeleton broke out of the ground and successfully joined Shen Xingyan's working team. Fortunately, the little skeleton has no thoughts of its own, otherwise, if it knew it was summoned to do hard labor, I wonder if it would choose to burrow underground? As per usual practice, Shen Xingyan gave this little skeleton to Wang Ke for training, while he took the other little skeletons to work in the fields. Soon, 8 skilled laborers began to appear in the wheat fields. 8 laborers are responsible for 4 acres of land, which means that 2 laborers are responsible for 1 acre of land. Seeing that there was still some time left for the professional skills to be improved, Shen Xingyan followed the little skeletons to handle the current maintenance work of the wheat field. He waited until the professional skill had finished cooling down before he used it, and he once again experienced what it meant to bring all things to life with just one finger movement. Soon after, Xingyuan's maintenance reminders began to appear more frequently, instead of appearing slowly every half a day. Regarding this situation, Shen Xingyan said that he has gotten used to it. Although he is not calm, he is as steady as an old dog and calmly goes out to kill the enemy with the little skeletons. Although Shen Xingyan is a high-level laborer, theoretically his workload should be much greater, but the actual situation is not the case. Due to physical limitations and instinctive issues such as mental fatigue, overall he is only slightly stronger than the little skeleton who has no physical limitations, just like the tortoise and the hare race. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Shen Xingyan's team killed a group of high-level professional farmers in seconds just based on numbers, not to mention their efficiency, which has reached a level that many top professionals find difficult to achieve. Today, with the addition of Shen Xingyan and the new skeleton, the efficiency of completing the maintenance work of the 4 acres of land began to become faster and faster, and the wheat seedlings also began to slowly transform into the final form of wheat. In this way, 4 days passed slowly. The 11th day after Shen Xingyan's awakening also ushered in the 2nd day full of joy of harvest. During the 4 days that passed, Shen Xingyan did not completely hand over the work of maintaining the wheat fields to the little skeletons as he did last time. Instead, he led the little skeletons to work together for 12 hours every day before leaving. Although the number of small skeletons has increased over time, they are now able to cope with the frequent maintenance tasks after performing professional skills. But Shen Xingyan wants to work harder and try to improve the wheat output per square meter. If there is a breakthrough, there may be new rewards. During these 4 days, although Shen Xingyan devoted most of his energy to wheat planting, he also did not neglect physical exercise in reality. After returning from the Star Wish world, except for eating and sleeping, he spent almost all his time on exercise. But the result was the same as he expected, there were no new changes in the physical attribute points. After all, it was a fact that it became more difficult to improve as time went on. If it was true that one could improve one attribute point by training for a few days as before, then the world would probably have become the peaceful one he imagined, a world without disasters. Moreover, the training conditions at home are limited, so he can only improve his physical attributes, while other aspects can only be improved through professional training equipment. But now is not the right time. If I want to improve other attributes of my body, I can only wait until after this harvest, when it is not noticeable, to start going out and training in the training room of the rented school. Now the time for the second harvest is approaching, and although Shen Xingyan is a little excited, he is not as impatient as the first time. I arrived at the professional space on time and looked at the wheat field which was even larger than the last time. Although I had made a lot of assumptions and preparations in my mind, the joy of the upcoming harvest still surged up involuntarily. While waiting for the harvest, Shen Xingyan had nothing to do, so he checked the current properties. In the attribute panel, I saw that as the physical fitness in reality improved, the physical fitness attributes in the Star Source world also improved, reaching 13 points. I haven't spent much money recently, and with the 2 silver coins my sister rewarded me last time, my money is still in double digits. I believe that after this harvest, this value will be greatly improved. As for the other attributes, there was no change and they remained motionless. This was also normal. Shen Xingyan did not pay too much attention to it and just admired his 2 powerful skills. At this time, the cooldown of the professional skill has been completed, and the attribute panel shows a usable sign. Looking at the purchase bar that still has no mature prompt, Shen Xingyan can't help but have an idea in his mind. What effect will it have if you use professional skills on the wheat field at this time? Chapter 28. As soon as this idea came into being, it quickly took root in Shen Xingyan's heart and grew uncontrollably, causing a strange light to emanate from his eyes, which were originally full of expectation. If it was a general professional skill that increased the growth rate, using it at this time would definitely be a waste, but his professional skill increased the growth progress, which was different from the growth rate that was linked to time. It is not entirely true to say that it speeds up time. It is simply an effect on crops and is not very related to time. If it is successful, will we be able to obtain wheat that far exceeds the normal yield? If this is true, wouldn't it be easy to break the record of the Star Source world? Shen Xingyan thought over and over again in his mind, if my professional skill is only the growth rate, then there is indeed a chance of failure. After all, once crops reach maturity, they will automatically enter a state of growth cessation. Increasing the growth rate is equivalent to multiplying any number by 0, and the final result is often 0. And its increased growth progress is similar to addition. Whoever adds it will get a percentage increase. After figuring this out, Shen Xingyan felt that his confidence had increased a lot, and this idea was spreading wildly in his mind. Looking at the wheat field in front of him that was about to mature, he hesitated for a moment, but immediately made up his mind and decided to give it a try. After all, even if you fail in the end, at most you will lose the opportunity to display your professional skills for one day. But if he succeeds, the rewards can be said to be quite generous. Just think about the reward that Xingyan World gave him after he broke the record last time. He thinks this attempt is worthwhile. After making up his mind, Shen Xingyan no longer hesitated. He stood up suddenly, replaced the sickle in his hand with a novice walking stick, and selected the 4 acres of wheat field opposite as his target, silently reciting in his mind to use his professional skills. At this time, Xingyan seemed to know Shen Xingyan's intention, and a warning suddenly sounded in Shen Xingyan's ears. Ding, it is detected that you are using a professional skill on crops that are about to mature. The use of this skill may fail. Do you want to continue? As the Star Source prompt appeared, Shen Xingyan's spell casting action also paused for a while. The arrow is on the string and I have to shoot it. Go on. Xingyan's reminder made Shen Xingyan feel a little unsure. He thought that some predecessors must have made such actions before, but he didn't know whether the other party's professional skills were the same as his own. But now he couldn't care less, so he directly responded to Xingyan's prompt and clicked confirm. Following Shen Xingyan's confirmation, his stagnant spell casting action continued, and all the energy in his body began to pour out crazily through the novice cane. As the skill was released, the wheat field that had been quietly waiting to mature began to rustle as if affected by the effect of the professional skill. Shen Xingyan saw Mai Tian's reaction and thought silently in his heart, it's done. Congratulations, you have successfully used your professional skills. Farmer professional experience points +1. At this time, Xingyan's prompt also sounded, and the shaking of the wheat field became more violent with this prompt. The wheat ears, which had stopped growing, began to swell rapidly, causing Shen Xingyan's heart to beat wildly as he watched closely. Just as he expected, looking at the shape of the wheat ears, it was clear that the wheat yield this time was enough to surpass his previous record. This phenomenon made him so excited that he clenched his fists to express his joy. However, Shen Xingyan's joy did not last long, because the wheat ears that had expanded more than a circle shrank back in the blink of an eye, and the entire wheat field returned to its original calm state from the shaking state just now. This sudden change made Shen Xingyan, who was celebrating just now, dumbfounded. This really caught him off guard. What's going on? Could it be that my idea doesn't work? But Xingyan's successful prompt has already appeared, what is going on? Shen Xingyan couldn't stop asking himself, looking at the scene in front of him in a daze, with 1,000 thoughts in his mind. At this time, a harvest sign appeared above the wheat field, indicating that the wheat was fully mature and could be harvested. The time when this prompt appeared was not much different from the time Shen Xingyan calculated the harvest. Shen Xingyan, who was in a daze, sighed softly when he saw this prompt sign, and accepted the result helplessly. He didn't expect to fail in the end. He admitted that there was an element of gambling in this action, but he did not expect that he could lose even with such a high chance of winning. It seems that gambling luck is something that cannot be easily trusted. Shen Xingyan could not help but warn himself in his heart. However, he also understood why gamblers become addicted. The beating of his heart just now really made him feel a little excited. Although the experiment failed, Shen Xingyan quickly adjusted himself. After all, the final loss was only one day's skill display, and he could still bear it. It's harvest time. Take out your sickles and let's get to work. Shen Xingyan said loudly to Wang Ke and the others. Afterwards, he handed over the subsequent division of labor and teaching the other skeletons working methods to Wang Ke. He went straight into the wheat field and began to harvest frantically, as if he wanted to vent all his previous depression through this harvesting activity. Wang Ke followed his master's instructions and directed all the little skeletons to harvest with sickles and gather them in one place like last time, waiting for their master to collect them. 11 laborers were harvesting wheat in the fields. Although their efficiency was not as fast as the first harvest, the land was larger and it took longer. Shen Xingyan naturally did not mind this situation. In the future, as there are more and more little skeletons, it is only a matter of time that the time is shortened. If he can continue to harvest like this, he will be very happy. Shen Xingyan was harvesting and weighing the wheat ears, and nodded silently in his heart, although his experiment failed and the growth of wheat did not reach his ideal state. However, the amount of wheat harvested this time is even greater in weight than the last time. Who knows, this time we may even be able to break the record of the star source world. Chapter 29. With this hopeful thought, Shen Xingyan became more motivated to harvest. With the increasingly skilled movements of skeletons such as Wang Ke, the 4 acres of wheat fields were harvested very quickly. If it were other farmers, they might not be able to harvest such a vast field in a whole day, but in Shen Xingyan's professional space, it seems quite easy. After Shen Xingyan finished harvesting the last bit of wheat on the field with his sickle, he did not immediately go to collect the mountain of wheat piled up by the little skeletons. Instead, he stood there anxiously, waiting for the prompt from the star source world. With the experience of the last harvest, Shen Xingyan is well aware of the next process. He does not need to actively calculate the harvest this time, and the Star Wish world will give him the correct hints. Within 2 seconds, Xing Yuan's notification sounded in his ears just as Shen Xingyan expected. Congratulations! You have planted 2,400 square meters of wheat and harvested 8,200 kilograms of wheat. You have earned 820 points of farmer professional experience. As soon as Xing Yuan's reminder came out, Shen Xingyan's originally uneasy mind suddenly relaxed, and his originally nervous expression instantly turned into joy. The harvest of 8,200 kilograms means an increase of 250 kilograms per mu compared to the last time, so it is a record-breaking achievement. Sure enough, just as I guessed, although the previous experiment failed, it still broke the record again. This result is always good. This thought arose in Shen Xingyan's mind, and the smile on his lips became bigger and bigger, and finally turned into a big laugh. And what he has to do next is to wait and see what kind of rewards the Star Source world will give. Xing Yuan seemed to have sensed Shen Xingyan's thoughts, and did not let him wait too long. The prompt sound appeared directly beside his ear. Congratulations! You have once again broken the record of 1,800 kilograms of wheat yield per acre that you have created so far, and successfully reached 2,050 kilograms. Special reward for you is planting privilege +1, the level of crops that can be planted +1, and the cultivated land area +600 square meters. Xing Yuan will make an announcement to the whole district. Do you want to make the information public? Shen Xingyan looked at the reward of planting privileges in the prompt, a little confused. There are such rewards? You have to know that in his previous understanding of the farmer's profession, Xing Yuan's planting levels are very strict. Only level 1 crops can be planted between levels 1 and 9, and only level 1 and level 2 crops can be planted between levels 10 and 19, and so on. The higher the level of the crops, the higher the experience and benefits will be when they are harvested. According to his current level, no matter how powerful his skills are, if he wants to grow high-level crops, he can only wait until the corresponding level. No props can break this rule. But now the Star Source world has given a planting privilege of +1, which has actually broken this rule. It allows him to grow high-level crops at a low level, something he has never heard of in the past 100 years. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan's thoughts began to diverge. With this privilege, his career level and the speed of earning money will be greatly improved. Moreover, as his career level increases in the future, the effect of this privilege will become greater and greater. Just imagine, when he reaches level 90, he can plant the legendary spirit level seeds. He dare not imagine how crazy the effect will be at that time. You should know that in such a large base, there are only 2 old gentlemen who have mastered the ability to plant primary spiritual seeds. And I heard that when you upgrade to level 50, the experience points required can be said to increase exponentially. If those 2 old gentlemen had not found special seeds outside the world that could increase experience points, it is estimated that the concept of spirit level seeds would still be unknown in the current base. The more Shen Xingyan thought about it, the more excited he became. This hopeful future made his eyes glow with a warm light, so hot that it could melt the little skeletons. After being stunned for a long time, he finally calmed down. Although the future is bright, he still needs to focus on the present. Now he is also a professional who can grow secondary crops. May I ask whether the information should be made public? Xing Yuan's reminder sound appeared in Shen Xingyan's ears again, urging him to make a decision quickly. Shen Xingyan, who had come to his senses, naturally chose no. If outsiders knew that he had obtained this privilege, especially those seniors who had reached a certain level but had not yet upgraded, disaster might come to them. This is not Shen Xingyan exaggerating, but the temptation is really too great. Who can refuse the opportunity to increase both experience and money? Following Shen Xingyan's choice, a few days later, the entire Xing Yuan space once again rang with reminder sounds. Professional XXX has broken the record of 1,800 kilograms of wheat per mu so far, and successfully reached 2,050 kilograms. He is specially awarded with a planting privilege +1, the level of crops that can be planted +1, and the cultivated land area +600 square meters. This is hereby announced to the whole district. 3 consecutive announcements echoed and spread throughout the entire Star Source world. The appearance of the announcement stunned all the professionals who were engaged in various affairs in the Xing Yuan world. The world seemed to be quiet for a moment, and a heated discussion ensued. What's going on? Why is there another announcement about Xiaomei breaking the record? It's not the end of it, it's only been a few days. And the reward this time is quite big. It's so tempting just looking at it. Not to mention the vast majority of professional farmers, even other professionals who only have a basic understanding of the farmer profession can hear the special nature of this reward. Oh my god, which shameless old guy is trying to take advantage of Xingyan world again? The reward is too tempting. I'll go get some level 1 seeds. This is the first time I've heard of Xingyan giving me a reward like planting privileges. I've got to clear out an acre of land to plant wheat. Those senior farmers couldn't help but complain and take action, and the envy in their tone was obvious. How is this possible? The wheat yield keeps breaking through. Which group is behind this? Did they find a loophole in Xingyan? Otherwise, it would be impossible to have such a high yield. They must be cheating. It would be great if I knew who these people are. Some people were staring at the adventurer who appeared in the announcement. The sinister look in their eyes made people feel a little chilly at first. Glance. Chapter 30. As the announcement from the Xingyan world ended, the 4 acres of land in Shen Xingyan's professional space began to change. The boundaries of the land began to expand, and the boundaries of the professional space also expanded outward. Shen Xingyan looked at this phenomenon but did not show any surprise. After all, after breaking the record last time, Xingyan gave him 1,800 square meters of land all at once. The change was much greater than the 600 square meters this time. However, what made him happy was that although Xingyan only gave him 1 acre of land, he was still very kind-hearted and renovated all of its fields, which saved him the time of turning the land. Looking at the increasingly vast fields in front of him, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but narrow his eyes and smile. The increase in land is permanent, which means that each future crop harvest and experience point will be increased accordingly. How can he not be happy? Although 1 acre of land may seem insignificant compared to the planting privilege, if you count it alone, 1 acre of land is worth 100 gold coins. This is equivalent to the amount of money that Shen Xingyan can harvest from growing crops for a long time. It is already a very powerful reward for them. After the joy, Shen Xingyan also began his harvest time. He walked to the mountain of wheat that the little skeletons had piled up to form the wheat. With a thought, the huge mountain of wheat instantly disappeared in the professional space and appeared in Shen Xingyan's backpack space. Opening the backpack space, Shen Xingyan used the built-in function of the Xingyan backpack to separate the wheat grains from the straw. Looking at the number 8,200 displayed in the grid where the wheat grains were stored, he smiled with satisfaction. Is there any farmer who can harvest wheat twice in just 10 days, and the total harvest reaches 10,000 kilograms? The economic benefits that can be achieved by this figure may not be a big deal in the eyes of those senior farmers. But you have to know that Shen Xingyan is just a newbie who has just changed his job for more than 10 days. To be able to achieve such results is already astonishing enough. Shen Xingyan happily checked the properties of wheat, item, wheat, excellent, value, 10 copper quantity, 8,200 attributes, a good material for making food. Excellence? How can it be excellence? The suffix of wheat's name actually showed excellence at this time, and the value of 1 kilogram reached an astonishing 10 copper coins, which made Shen Xingyan, who was not mentally prepared, open his eyes wide in disbelief. Excellence, that is 2 levels higher than quality. The concept of excellence echoed in Shen Xingyan's mind. He still remembered that the last time he harvested wheat, its quality was only of premium grade, and that was when he and many skeletons were taking care of 1 acre of land together. The little skeleton continued to take good care of the farmland even after he left, which was how the farmland was maintained in such high quality that he could easily accept the result. However, the cultivated land area is larger this time, and the number of skeletons has not yet reached a sufficient scale due to time constraints. If I had not devoted all my energy to the Star Source mission in the past few days, perhaps this record-breaking attempt would have been ruined. Considering this situation, he expected that it would be good enough if the wheat could maintain its high quality. He did not expect the wheat to jump 2 levels to reach excellent quality. However, now that the fact was right before his eyes, he had no choice but to believe it. However, in the face of this cause for celebration, Shen Xingyan frowned. His mind began to frantically think about all the events that had occurred during the past few days of planting, trying to figure out the reasons behind it. Because as long as he finds the cause, he will have an important breakthrough in improving the quality of crops in the future, which will be a huge improvement to his future harvests. Other farmers who want to get high-quality crops mostly rely on luck, because the Star Source world itself also has a similar random mechanism, but its probability is spread throughout the Star Source world, and its probability is much smaller. But Shen Xingyan had a hunch that the improvement in the quality of his wheat was not because the Star Source randomly came to him, but had objective reasons. After thinking through the planting step by step from beginning to end, he finally focused his attention on the professional skill in his attribute column that had entered a cooldown state. The only difference this time was that I used my professional skills experimentally on the wheat field before harvesting, and at that time the Star Source world also prompted that the skill had been used successfully. But in the end, the wheat shrank back after expanding, causing me to subconsciously think that the experiment had failed. But looking at the current results, not only did it break the record, but the quality of the wheat jumped 2 levels, which shows that the experiment not only did not fail, but also achieved an extraordinary success. This conclusion lingered in Shen Xingyan's mind, and he deduced it again and again. Finally, he was sure that the excellent level of wheat and the record breaking again must be closely related to the use of professional skills just now. After confirming the success of the experiment, Shen Xingyan's thoughtful face was suddenly filled with joy. This lost and recovered discovery made him feel like a bright future. At the same time, this result made him jump up with excitement, as if he had discovered a hidden loophole in the Star Source world. Looking at his own professional skills in the attribute panel, he felt it was more mysterious and cute. After the excitement, Shen Xingyan slowly calmed down and then checked the straw in his backpack. Item, straw, excellent, value, 2 copper quantity, 3,600 properties, a good basic material. When a man achieves enlightenment, his whole family will benefit from it. Even the wheat straw will become excellent, and its value will double to 2 copper coins per kilogram. After checking the properties of the wheat straw, Shen Xingyan was satisfied. He then sold all the wheat and wheat straw to Xingyuan shopping mall and obtained 89,200 copper coins. Seeing so many copper coins coming into his account, Shen Xingyan became extremely happy and thought, my money-earning speed has already caught up with most combat professionals. Thinking happily in his heart, Shen Xingyan looked at the experience value that had seriously exceeded the current level, 912/200. He rubbed his palms excitedly and said, such a lot of experience points should be enough for him to level up several times. Chapter 31. In the Xingyuan world, upgrading is the eternal theme. After upgrading, professionals can not only make money faster, but also gain experience faster. At the same time, the different star source world will gradually show professionals like Shen Xingyan his unknown side. Take Shen Xingyan's planting profession for example. Under normal circumstances, between the 1st and 9th levels of the profession, he can only plant first-level crops within an acre of land. Only after reaching the 10th level of the profession can you unlock the function of expanding the land, get rid of the inefficient life of planting first-level crops, and plant higher-level crops. There will even be some new random tasks and surprise rewards. Moreover, according to the knowledge taught in school, after a professional reaches level 10, the attribute points obtained with each subsequent upgrade will also be improved, and the improvement in strength will naturally be improved by a corresponding amount, thus creating a positive cycle. All aspects of Xingyuan are tempting professionals to upgrade, but Shen Xingyan enjoys the high-level treatment of Xingyuan world in advance because of breaking the record. A special existence like him has already broken through normal circumstances and reached a state that others would not even dare to dream of. In the initial stage, he owned a vast land of 3,000 square meters, and now he has the privilege of being able to grow higher-level crops, which is unique in the Xingyuan world. At least he didn't find any records showing anyone enjoying the same treatment as him. Shen Xingyan looked at the upgrade arrow that appeared behind the experience value in the attribute panel. The flickering light gave him a feeling of restlessness, making him want to destroy it quickly. Taking a deep breath, Shen Xingyan gently moved his body to warm up for the upcoming attribute improvement. Although he knew that what he did was just a psychological preparation and would not have any influence on what happened next, he still felt that he needed to do so and not do anything else for the time being. At least his emotions were much more stable during this activity. After waiting for his emotions to stabilize, Shen Xingyan did not hesitate to use his mind to continuously click on the upgrade arrow. Congratulations, your career level has been upgraded to level 3. I will reward you with +1 to all attributes, +2 free attribute points, and -1% cooldown of career skills. I hope you will keep up the good work and strive to improve. Congratulations, your career level has been upgraded to level 4. I will reward you with +1 to all attributes, +2 free attribute points, and -1% cooldown of career skills. I hope you will keep up the good work and strive to improve. Congratulations, your career level has been upgraded to level 5. I will reward you with +1 to all attributes, +2 free attribute points, and -1% cooldown of career skills. I hope you will keep up the good work and strive to improve. As Shen Xingyan clicked frantically, 3 prompts from Xingyuan appeared. Shen Xingyan instantly leveled up 3 levels, and his professional level in the Xingyuan world reached level 5. It took Shen Xingyan 10 days to upgrade a level 1 farmer to level 5. If other people knew about this, it would definitely cause an uproar. The farmer profession is notoriously difficult to upgrade. After all, it takes a long time, and the experience gained is affected by the most factors. If you are not careful, there is a risk of having the experience. This is also an important reason why the farmer profession is the weakest livelihood profession. However, Shen Xingyan has raised such a living profession to such a level in such a short period of time. The degree of shock is no different from the shock caused by killing a demon general level disaster with bare hands. The 3 enhancements to his physical attributes made Shen Xingyan feel a sense of comfort in his body and mind, even though he was only in the world of Xingyuan and the feeling was not that profound. After feeling refreshed, Shen Xingyan quickly checked his new attribute panel. Name, Shen Xingyan No 1181204331-9527. Occupation, farmer. Professional skills, 1. Consume a certain amount of energy points to increase the growth rate of crops within a specified range by 10%. The larger the range, the more energy points are consumed. The interval is 10 hours, and the skill cooldown is 24 hours, -4%. Level, 5 experience, 12/500 strength, 14 points agility, 14 points constitution, 16 points spirit, 14 points free attribute points, 6 points HP, 160/160 points rating, 20/20 physical strength, 16 points physical attack, 14 points spell attack, 14 points defense, 16 points speed, 14 points talent. Summon skeleton. Summon a skeleton monster with all attributes of 1 to fight, cooling time 24 hours, money, 0 gold 99 silver 850 bronze. After upgrading, all attributes are restored to their full value. In the attribute panel, Shen Xingyan's overall attributes have been improved by 3 points, and the improvement has exceeded a quarter of his original attributes, which is also the source of the comfort just now. Including the 6 free attribute points in the panel, Shen Xingyan gained a total of 18 attribute points in this upgrade. Although these attribute points may not be very impressive in the eyes of those high-level professions, but for professionals at the primary stage, it is like increasing their own strength by half, and the increase is indeed huge. In 10 days, I have upgraded my professional level to level 5. This upgrade speed should be comparable to those top combat professionals of the same period. Shen Xingyan thought subconsciously, and then his joy was revealed without any concealment. He pulled up Wang Ke and other skeletons standing nearby and started jumping. Fortunately, Shen Xingyan, in this excited state, still took into account the physical properties of skeletons such as Wang Ke and did not jump too exaggeratedly, otherwise he would have pulled off a few of the little skeletons' hand bones due to the different heights. After the excitement, Shen Xingyan looked at the money column with less than 100 silver coins and felt a little regretful. Having so many attributes but not having enough money to extract them into the real world is a bit of a pity. But then I thought it over. After all, in the foreseeable future, this situation will definitely change slowly with the passage of time. Now that he has the privilege of planting, coupled with his 2 powerful skills, he will make money faster and faster in the future, and it is only a matter of time before the attributes are extracted to the real world. If other professionals knew what Shen Xingyan was thinking now, they would definitely be so angry that they would vomit blood. After all, they worked very hard in their professional activities, and the most they had accumulated in 10 days was only a few dozen silver coins. Shen Xingyan has already obtained nearly 100 silver coins, but he is still not satisfied and is still thinking about extracting attributes into reality. Come on, you are just a rookie who has just awakened your profession 10 days ago. Your current success is already enviable enough. If you keep thinking too much, you really don't treat us as human beings. Chapter 32. As Shen Xingyan came up with the idea that drove other professionals crazy, he also opened the Xingyuan Mall and selected the seeds to be planted next. Compared with the first level, the second level seed options are much more, including corn, lettuce, Chinese cabbage, potatoes, eggplants and other crops. The output value in terms of timeliness is basically the same, the only difference is the growth time, which is also an important reference data for Shen Xingyan to select seeds. Shen Xingyan analyzed the economic benefits of various types of seeds one by one, and based on his own specific situation, he analyzed which type of seeds would produce the greatest cost-effectiveness after planting. Other farmers do not need to consider this issue because they can plant whatever they want and the final results will not make much difference. After all, their professional skills only increase the growth rate of crops, making them mature earlier or later. After comparing them one by one, Shen Xingyan directly eliminated crops such as lettuce, Chinese cabbage, eggplant, etc. that could be grown in 2 or 3 days. They were not suitable for his professional skills and it was difficult to break records, so they were no longer within the scope of his investigation. Shen Xingyan was somewhat uncertain at the end with 2 seeds. One is corn and the other is potatoes. Comparing the 2 crops, although they have the same planting time, potatoes are inferior in terms of commercial value, so Shen Xingyan instinctively wants to choose corn. However, considering the height of his little skeletons, the height of the corn in the later stage of maturity will be much higher than the little skeletons. At that time, it will not only be inconvenient to work, but some maintenance work may even be unfinished, resulting in a task stagnation state, which is not worth the loss. In view of this, Shen Xingyan did not hesitate anymore and directly chose the crop to be planted this time, potatoes. After all, the little skeletons are the main force in planting and the main force in labor. Everything should revolve around them, which will have a positive impact on the growth of crops. On the surface, Shen Xingyan gave up higher returns, but in fact he chose a result that best suits his situation. After Shen Xingyan's detailed understanding, he found out that the growth cycle of potatoes is 20 days, which is twice as long as the 10 days for first-level wheat seeds. However, its economic value and the final professional experience points are more than just doubled. Under normal circumstances, the wheat yield per mu is 500 kilograms, and its harvest value can be 1,000 copper coins and 50 professional experience points. Under normal circumstances, potatoes produce 3,000 kilograms per mu, and their value can be 9,000 copper coins. The professional experience value increase reaches 600 points, which completely crushes the first-level seeds in all aspects. This is also an important reason why farmers are eager to upgrade their professional level. After all, with the same amount of labor, the final rewards are so different. How can they not desire high-level seeds? After Shen Xingyan selected the variety, he was about to purchase the number of seeds needed for 5 acres of land with a light tap of his mind. However, at this moment, he suddenly remembered that Xingyuan Century would give rewards for breaking the record, and the purchase action suddenly stopped. Should I set aside an acre of land to continue growing wheat? See if I can break my own record again. This thought popped into Shen Xingyan's mind. Breaking the wheat harvest record twice in a row, especially the second time he used his professional skills, gave him a kind of confidence in this matter. Moreover, the rewards from the Star Source world were enormous for him. The land alone had greatly enhanced his overall strength. Otherwise, as a farmer, no matter how powerful his skills are, it would be impossible for him to reach his current level in such a short time and almost catch up with those combat professionals. After thinking about the pros and cons, Shen Xingyan made up his mind to continue growing wheat. The worst result would be a reduction in experience points and harvest from this acre of land, which was completely bearable for him now. And if the record is broken again this time, the reward will be so generous that it cannot be compared with just a little experience and money. After Shen Xingyan weighed the pros and cons in his mind, he no longer hesitated and directly selected the number of potato seeds needed to plant 4 acres of land and the number of wheat seeds needed to plant 1 acre of land. With the 30% discount on the purchase of seeds, he quickly paid the 1,470 copper coins. Now, for Shen Xingyan, who is already a big spender, this little money is no longer so important. What's more, he pays now for better gains in the future, so this little money is well worth spending. Shen Xingyan divided the 5 acres of land according to the plan in his mind. He continued to plant wheat on the original acre in the center, and planted new potato seeds on the other acre of land that spread out in all directions. In order to ensure the smooth operation of wheat's record-breaking experiment, he specifically gave Wang Ke an instruction that wheat would have a higher priority than potatoes. If maintenance prompts for wheat and potatoes appeared at the same time, the wheat ones would be given priority, and the potatoes ones would be postponed. After completing these instructions, he did not waste any more time and directed Wang Ke and other little skeletons to start planting. Planting 5 acres of land is not a small task. Although the number of Shen Xingyan skeletons has reached 10, they still work without stopping. The planting also takes a lot of time. Moreover, after giving priority to planting wheat, during the sowing of potato seeds, wheat maintenance prompts began to appear slowly. Shen Xingyan had to separate several small skeletons to deal with them, which also led to a decrease in sowing efficiency. Fortunately, Shen Xingyan's professional skills were in a cooling state and had not been used at this time, so the maintenance work was not very drastic and the impact on sowing was still within a controllable range. During the planting period, Shen Xingyan's talent skill was also cooled down, and he quickly summoned the 11th little skeleton. With the addition of new labor, the efficiency of sowing was slightly improved. Finally, with the work of 12 laborers, it took nearly 2 hours to completely plant the potatoes. After a busy day, Shen Xingyan also stopped to stand at the edge of the field and saw for the first time that the land was still so bare after sowing. He suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. After all, every time the planting is completed, his professional skills will directly cover it up, allowing the crops to be quickly improved, and it is impossible for the soil to be displayed so clearly in front of him. But just now, in order to help Xiaomei break the record, he used it in advance. Now it is still in the cooling state and he can only wait quietly. At this time, the prompts on the wheat field appeared very slowly, and the little skeletons could handle it with their current efficiency. Chapter 33. Shen Xingyan stopped caring about it after seeing this. Harvesting wheat and planting seeds had consumed a lot of his physical strength, and his physical strength was almost approaching the warning line. He also walked to the end of the field, found a place to sit down, and took a short rest to recover his strength. Only then did he have time to think about the distribution of those free attribute points. Shen Xingyan summoned his own attribute panel, picked up 2 buns and ate them to restore his strength while looking at the information in the attribute panel. After appreciating the improved attributes again, he locked his eyes on the column of free attribute points. Looking at the 6 free attribute points displayed in the attribute panel, he began to think. When he was promoted to level 2 before, he added the upgraded attribute points to energy. This was because the increase in land resulted in insufficient energy points. When he used his professional skills, he could not cover the area of a 4 acres of land at once, resulting in a waste of resources. According to his previous calculations, about 5 energy points are needed for each acre of land. Now that the area of his farmland has increased to 5 acres, the 20 energy points that were originally just enough are once again insufficient to cope with the 5 acres of land. If he proceeds normally, he needs to add 5 free attribute points to the energy to deal with this situation. But he felt a little reluctant. After all, it was exactly 5 o'clock. If it is added to any physical attribute and he extracts it in the future, it will be equivalent to several years of hard training in the real world. But now he has to waste his energy in vain. How can he make a decision happily? However, Shen Xingyan, out of rational long-term considerations, understood that adding attribute points to energy was only a matter of time. Although his energy will increase accordingly with each upgrade after he reaches level 10, in the foreseeable future, the chances of his crops breaking the world record for energy will also increase. Take potatoes for example. They have a growth cycle of 20 days. No matter how strong a migrant worker is, can he stay in the Xingyuan world for the entire growth period? Shen Xingyan felt that there was not much, and there were even fewer people who stayed for the full 10 days, otherwise he would not have been the one to break the wheat record. But his little skeleton can do it, and he can do it without sleep. No one else has the same conditions as him, so he feels that the possibility of potato breaking the record in the end is still very high. At one point he wanted to plant 1 crop per acre to see if he could break a few more records, but he didn't do that. After all, the reality is that we are in a stage of maintaining stability. It is feasible to make attempts while ensuring steady improvement, but if he tries all of them, it would seem a bit superficial. According to the rewards for his 2 record-breaking times, the Star Source World rewarded him with arable land. It is thought that the reward for arable land will be more or less included in the future. The naturally increased energy points will definitely not be enough, and in the end he can only rely on free attribute points to make up for it. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan felt a little helpless. He had a hunch that all the free attribute points in the future would be used to increase the original energy, and other attributes could only rely on natural growth. Even if he was emotionally unwilling, there was no other way. For the sake of the overall situation, he could only reluctantly add 5 attribute points to energy. My poor free attribute points. Shen Xingyan mourned for his free attributes that had been gloriously sacrificed. At this time, the energy has increased from 20 points to 25 points, and there is still 1 point left, but Shen Xingyan has not allocated it. Let him stay there for a while, and it will be more comfortable to watch. Although it will definitely be added to the energy in the future. After completing the allocation of attribute points, Shen Xingyan also cheered up. He looked up at the empty fields and saw the little skeletons working in an orderly manner under Wang Kei's command. The depressed mood just now dissipated a lot, and was replaced by waves of relief. At this time, Wang Kei, wearing a straw hat in the field, really had the feeling of a captain. He would bend down to work, and then look up at the other little skeletons, looking like a supervisor, which made Shen Xingyan feel quite funny. My first little skeleton is really capable. It's a pity that it can't eat. Otherwise, with its working enthusiasm, I would have to give it a chicken leg. Shen Xingyan thought with a smile. With the dual effects of rest and eating steamed buns, after a while Shen Xingyan saw that his physical strength attribute in the attribute panel had recovered to 12 points. He did not stay in the field for long, but went to the fields to work with Wang Kei and other little skeletons. While working, he taught new concepts to the little skeletons. In order to break the record more steadily, Shen Xingyan looked for relevant information and studied how to increase crop yields. Through the various cases recorded in the base, he summed up a common point involved in all the cases, that is, intensive cultivation. The so-called intensive cultivation is very simple, that is, in daily maintenance tasks, use more refined operations to complete the maintenance work released by Star Source World. This method is not very useful for other professionals who are unable to cope with the prompts, but Shen Xingyan thinks it can be tried. After all, it has been proven to be helpful for crop yields, so it is worth a try. Now that the new seeds have just been planted, Shen Xingyan feels that it is time to put this concept into practice. Therefore, during the work, Shen Xingyan also tried to pass on the concepts he had learned to skeletons such as Wang Kei, so that they could understand how to strive for excellence in their work, and hoped that they could gradually improve their work efficiency on this basis. However, Shen Xingyan overestimated the little skeleton's ability to understand. After he finished explaining, Wang Kei and the other skeletons did not understand the meaning of Shen Xingyan's instructions at all, and continued to perform the previous rough maintenance actions, which were exactly the same as what Shen Xingyan had taught them before. Shen Xingyan was somewhat helpless when he saw that the results of the concept training were not particularly ideal. After thinking about it, he did not give up immediately, but once again placed his hopes on his right-hand man, Wang Kei. When he was alone with Wang Kei, he explained in detail his ideas and how to better complete farm work such as irrigation, weeding, and pest control, and told the other party by words and deeds. As the captain of the skeleton team, Wang Kei didn't know whether he had realized or simply learned Shen Xingyan's movements, but he had indeed made a lot of progress when he started working. Again. Chapter 34. It's good to have made progress. Let's take it slowly in the future. This is not something that can be achieved overnight. It seems that I still have to rely on Wang Kei for any ideas in the future. After Shen Xingyan figured it out, he nodded in approval and gave Wang Kei instructions to teach him. Later, under Wang Kei's individual teaching, all the little skeletons also completed the steps towards preliminary refined farming. If other professionals saw Shen Xingyan's actions at this time, they would definitely think that he was really going too far. It was already good enough that the little skeletons could help with farming, but he actually made such a harsh request, which really made it difficult for the little skeletons. While Shen Xingyan was leisurely farming with the little skeletons, because of the record-breaking improvement of Xingyuan, all farmers and related personnel began to focus on the crop of wheat. If the record was broken for the first time, it might be a coincidence. After all, there is never a shortage of lucky people in the world of Star Wish. Each profession has the same mechanism as the combat profession in killing monsters and getting equipment. There is a chance to get a critical hit reward from the Star Source world when harvesting, but the probability is very small. Especially for the farmer profession, it takes several days to complete the harvesting action, which is completely incomparable with the frequency of killing monsters and harvesting by the combat profession, so it is indeed extremely rare for the farmer profession to produce a critical hit. Moreover, the Star Wish world has a large number of professional farmers, and the daily critical hits are limited, but there is no way to force it. They had no way to protest against this and could only envy the good luck of that professional. If the record was broken for the first time, people would think it was a deliberate act by an old professional, or that the lucky guy got a super critical hit, so people would not think too much about it. Moreover, the rewards are quite acceptable to high-level professionals. So after just 5 days in Congo, the reminder of the second record-breaking event made them have some thoughts in their minds, especially since the reward this time was the extremely tempting planting privilege. And the rewards are extremely important to high-level farmers, which makes them jealous. After all, they really didn't expect that the rewards for breaking the record would be so great. You know, there were people who broke the record before, but their rewards were just simple item rewards, and there have never been any special rewards. The two most recent wheat record-breaking rewards both involved privileged rewards, which forced them to think more about whether wheat, a first-level crop, has any special properties. However, they did not understand the actual situation. You have to know that Shen Xingyan broke the record at an extremely low professional level, and the difficulty is naturally different from breaking the record at a high professional level. Moreover, Shen Xingyan was not like others who extended their stay in the Star Wish world in order to improve the quality of their harvest. It would be impossible for others to break the record at such a low level without using other privileges. In view of this, Xingyuan's rewards are indeed a bit larger than usual. But other people don't know the specific reason. In the absence of any other reminders, they will only think about this matter from their own perspective. Almost all senior professionals have vacated an acre of land to plant wheat, hoping that an unexpected surprise will come. However, it is foreseeable that their final result will probably be that the greater the expectations, the greater the disappointment. Some people also want to know who the professional mentioned in the prompt is. After all, instead of studying quietly on their own how to break the record, it is better to directly plunder the ready-made results. They fantasized about finding out what connection there was from the 2-star source hints, and wondered which organizations or groups would plant the wheat seeds, so they divided the groups and then checked them one by one. Although this move is a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack, if the blind cat happens to catch a dead mouse, and the person is right around you, then you will make a fortune. This is also the reason why Shen Xingyan, despite having a lot of money, has to keep a low profile and dare not reveal his real name. People's hearts are most unpredictable at this time. Unlike the life professions who were shocked by this prompt, the combat profession's reaction was indeed much smaller, especially the newbies like Chu Wei who had just awakened to the combat profession, who saw this prompt just for fun. At this time, Chu Wei's team had just destroyed the level 5 giant bat in front of them. With the disappearance of the monster, spoils and experience points also arrived. Chu Wei checked her own experience points and found that she had met the requirements for upgrading. She then clicked the level up arrow without hesitation and successfully raised her level from level 4 to level 5. Chu Wei was briefly excited when he saw the upgraded level, but when he saw the upgrade limit increased by another 100 experience points he felt a little helpless. After 10 busy days, I have just managed to reach level 5. The higher the level, the more experience points are needed and the longer it takes to kill monsters. It seems that it will be good enough if I can reach level 10 by the time of the trial in 20 days. Her thoughts at this time were the same as those of most professionals. As a mage, she had decent lethality but seriously insufficient defense. In the beginning, it was quite difficult to kill monsters alone without forming a team, and her efficiency was also low. Not everyone can level up 3 times in one harvest like Shen Xingyan, and as he starts to grow higher level crops, his subsequent experience points will also be upgraded to a higher level. I don't know how Shen Xingyan is doing now. He should have harvested the first batch of crops, but he didn't even tell me about it. Humph, he even said that he wanted me to taste the crops he planted himself. I have to talk to him about it when I return to reality. After Chu Wei thought of Shen Xingyan, a light smile appeared on her originally cold face. Although she thought so in her heart, she was still very happy that Shen Xingyan could harvest food and get rid of her current difficult situation. This can be seen from the fact that the first person she thought of after the upgrade was Shen Xingyan. Boss, I'm pulling a monster over here. Chu Wei came to her senses after hearing the shouts of her teammates in the distance. She gathered her mind and responded, quickly adding 2 free attribute points to her spirit, which improved her professional skills again. She quickly joined the battle, and as she whispered, a fireball that was a circle bigger than the previous one flew towards the big bat. Chapter 35. While others were either killing monsters or busy with their professional tasks, Shen Xingyan was sleeping peacefully in his professional space, recovering his mental strength. Without professional skills, the maintenance prompt video of the field appears very slowly, and the work of 11 little skeletons is enough to cope with this situation. Of course, Shen Xingyan doesn't sleep all the time. He will get up from time to time to check on their work progress, which plays a role in optimizing supervision. However, after he instilled the concept of intensive cultivation into Wang Ke, his role seemed to begin to weaken. Whenever he put down what he was doing and stood up to check on the little skeletons' work, he would be surprised to find that the little skeletons, who had been taught and supervised by Wang Ke, were doing the same thing as him after adapting. The only difference was probably the difference in efficiency. After all, his physical attributes are not comparable to those of the little skeleton whose full body attributes are 1. However, it is probably precisely because they work slowly that they seem to have implemented the concept of intensive farming more thoroughly. The more standardized their labor movements are, and coupled with their unlimited physical strength as a driving force, they are already comparable to Shen Xingyan. This surprise caught Shen Xingyan off guard. It was originally just an experimental behavior, but he didn't expect Wang Ke and the other little skeletons to understand it so quickly. Previously, Shen Xingyan thought that they only had a partial understanding and that it would take time for them to fully understand. But now it seems that he was a little conservative. As a result, the way he looked at these cute little skeletons also became more friendly. The little skeletons were really born to farm. So what if their attributes are low? When God closes a window for them, he will definitely open a door at the same time. Shen Xingyan thought with satisfaction. In this state, Shen Xingyan's spirit was fully restored, and he immediately officially joined the work. After all, the more effort he put in, the more hope there would be for a breakthrough in crop yields. It was not until the Star Source world reminded him that his stay was almost up that he quickly put down the farm work in his hands and handed it over to the little skeletons, and repeated the instructions he had given previously to Wang Ke. Then he walked towards one end of the field. As he walked, he opened the Xingyuan shopping mall and began to search for items that could benefit the human body. After all, he is now a man with some money, so it is only natural for him to buy some nutritional supplements for his sister to improve her physical fitness. He is not afraid that his sister will find out anything, so he just needs to buy some medicine that can be added to the food so that she won't find out. With this purpose in mind, Shen Xingyan quickly browsed through the search results in Xingyuan Mall. He didn't even look at those expensive and powerful potions, such as spiritual objects that could directly increase physical attributes but had a limited number of uses. There was no other way. With his current strength, he really couldn't afford them. He looked down and soon found the civilian medicine that was recognized within the base item, physical activation potion value, 1 silver coin dosage, 10 ml attributes. Each milliliter of the potion increases the growth rate of physical fitness within 1 hour, the effect will be better if you do physical exercise during use. It is said that this potion is a potion for improving body functions that can be made according to the blueprint by alchemists who have reached level 50. It is very effective for children like Shen Xingyan who are in the growth stage. If I had taken this potion occasionally before, the previous training would not have been so hard. Shen Xingyan looked at the introduction of this potion and couldn't help but think secretly in his heart. He is probably the only one who knows how much effort he put in to get the full attributes after awakening, and the reason why he needed to go through those experiences is, after all, because he has no money. Shen Xingyan looked at the still warm little change in his wallet, gritted his teeth and directly bought 5 bottles of physical activation potion. Including the cost of extracting it to the real world, he spent 50 silver coins on this potion alone, which directly consumed half of his assets. Money is hard to earn, but this money is really hard to spend. Shen Xingyan thought with some regret. If other newly awakened professionals heard such size, they would probably want to beat them up. They would be able to afford enhancement potions in 10 days, but they are still just able to get enough food and clothing. However, before Shen Xingyan had the chance to look at other enhancement potions, he was kicked out of the Xingyan world because of the end of his final stay. When Shen Xingyan's consciousness returned to the real world, he felt a buzzing in his head. He covered his head and muttered softly, "Xingyan, can you be gentler? This kick is too hard." It was the first time Shen Xingyan experienced the feeling of being kicked out forcibly, and he was unable to adapt for a while. After the slight tingling in his brain slowly disappeared, he got up and walked towards the kitchen, earned himself some food, and filled his stomach in the real world. Only then did he feel relaxed both physically and mentally. After waiting for a while, feeling that his body had reached a better level, he stopped hesitating, changed into his daily training clothes, opened the door and walked outside. This was the first time he had walked out of the room in the past 10 days. It was noon at this time, the sun in the sky was still grey, and the air was filled with unpleasant smells from time to time, forming a very sharp contrast with the environment of the star source world. Shen Xingyan had been staying at home for so many days, and he was a little uncomfortable coming out suddenly. However, he adapted quickly. After all, this was where he had lived for more than 10 years. He then walked towards the school. According to normal calculations, he has now completed the harvest of the first batch of wheat. From the perspective of outsiders, he has some money, so it is very reasonable for him to go out and spend it. Shen Xingyan was also waiting for this time. After all, long-term training at home only had an effect on physical attributes, but had no effect on strength and agility. The purpose of his coming out this time was to go to the training hall next to the school and train hard so as to improve his other 2 attributes as soon as possible. As for mental attributes, he didn't consider them for the time being. Although the improvement of mental attributes could make him more energetic and reduce the time he sleeps every day, it was not the most important thing at the moment. Moreover, in the future, the number of his little skeletons will increase, and he will have more free time. Just like today, he can sleep and restore his energy in the Star Wish world. He doesn't need to improve his ability in this area. Chapter 36. Shen Xingyan came to a large training hall near the school, which not only covers a huge area but also covers all kinds of training items. When he was in school before, he had trained in this training hall with the school teachers. The teacher said that although the equipment here is not as good as the training instruments in the school, it is still barely sufficient in terms of its effect. There are quite a few people in the venue at this time, most of them are novice professionals with ambition like Shen Xingyan, and their professional level will not exceed level 20. They will not waste the time they spend in reality, but will continue to train to improve their real-life strength. Through Shen Xingyan's previous understanding of this type of people, he found that their daily routines are very regular. Basically, the time period from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day is spent in the Xingyan world. After returning to reality, I would sleep for a few hours to restore my energy, and then go to the stadium for training. I would train until nearly 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and then go back to continue to immerse myself in the Star Source world. Based on this information, Shen Xingyan walked in and directly booked a 6-hour training time at the front desk in order to avoid attracting attention. Following the enthusiastic greeting from the girl at the front desk, Shen Xingyan directly took out his Xingyan card and paid 300 copper coins at the cash register. It was the first time that Shen Xingyan used the Xingyan card to make a purchase in real life. This feeling made him feel novel, as if he had been living in an agricultural civilization before, and now suddenly entered a modern world, with a feeling of being disconnected. After Shen Xingyan completed the payment, he also walked towards the lowest grade power equipment. For a professional like him who has just awakened not long ago, with an average physical attribute of no more than 20 points, the lowest grade equipment is already fully in line with his training requirements. If you surpass this level in the future, you will need to use intermediate training equipment, and the cost per hour will be 500 copper coins, which is completely different from now. Looking at the 10-point strength attribute displayed on the Xingyan card, Shen Xingyan suddenly became full of motivation. You know, these days, without any assistance from any equipment, he has already improved his physical attributes in reality by 2 points. Now with the help of equipment and focusing on a single item of training, his improvement progress should be much faster. Shen Xingyan had just walked to the strength training equipment and was about to start training when he saw someone he knew. Teacher Li, you are here too. Shen Xingyan greeted the other party with a slightly embarrassed tone. In front of him was Teacher Li, who had led their class to the central area for awakening. After all, Shen Xingyan had just graduated not long ago. Due to the inertia of student thinking, when he saw the teacher, he still had an instinctive fear and subconsciously wanted to avoid him. However, Teacher Li saw him at this time, and the two of them had already made eye contact. Shen Xingyan had no choice but to bite the bullet and go forward. Mr. Li in front of Shen Xingyan, whose real name is Li Liming, is a teacher in school and also a coach in this training gym, which is his second career. At this time, he was checking the instruments, and suddenly he saw Shen Xingyan, a genius who made him feel sorry for himself, appearing here. He was surprised and emotional at the same time. After all, Shen Xingyan was a prominent figure in school. Although Li Liming was not his teacher, he also knew this student. Last time he learned that he had awakened to the profession of a farmer, he felt it was a pity. In this age where occupation determines most of a person's fate, sometimes being bad luck is also a mistake. Now, seeing that even though the other party has only awakened to the farmer profession, he still has not given up on improving his own abilities, I can't help but feel relieved. Shen Xingyan, right? I remember you. I didn't expect to see you here. I work part-time as a coach here. Li Liming said with some emotion. You know, about 90% of the people who are training here are combat professionals, and those with life professions are very rare. And Shen Xingyan is the only one with a farmer profession, which makes him feel surprised. I just made some money and came here to train myself. I didn't expect to meet you here. Shen Xingyan continued politely. After all, the relationship between the two was just acquaintances, not very familiar with each other, and he was well aware of the taboo of talking about deep things with someone you just met. Li Liming has come into contact with many students, and it seems that the thoughts of young people are all written on their faces. Naturally, he also noticed Shen Xingyan's politeness. In order to avoid the other party's embarrassment, he also responded with a smile, I also came here by chance. It's fate that we met here. You can practice. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Shen Xingyan also responded politely. The two chatted for a few more words and then went about their own business. Li Liming then checked the equipment, while Shen Xingyan also relaxed and found a piece of equipment a little further away to start exercising. These devices are similar to those in school, and Shen Xingyan has been here before, so he is familiar with how to operate them. While checking, Li Liming would look up from time to time at this young man who was not very lucky but had a lot of tenacity. He could not help but nod when he saw his skillful movements during exercise. Although his training method has some flaws, it does not have much impact. It is already the best among the young people he has seen. It just still has an academic flavor and does not conform to the training difficulty that should be expected in reality. Considering that the opponent is currently just a farmer and will most likely not go outside the boundary to kill disasters in the future, this intensity is enough for him and there is no need to increase the training difficulty to the same as that of a combat professional. After completing his work, Li Liming said hello to Shen Xingyan and left. After Li Liming left, Shen Xingyan finally relaxed completely. After all, there was someone he knew around, so he was somewhat afraid to overtrain. After all, he was also a man with a secret, so it was always better to be safe than sorry. With Shen Xingyan's current 12-point physical attribute, he could increase the difficulty of training by 1 level, speeding up the improvement of his strength attribute. After all, our predecessors have already summed up the experience that all attributes do not exist independently, but are interdependent. The improvement of physical attributes has a positive impact on other attributes of the body as a whole. Although increasing the difficulty of training would cause his physical strength to be quickly depleted, according to his estimation, it would not be a problem for him to persist in exercising for the entire afternoon. After being released, Shen Xingyan exerted all his strength, showing no intention of holding back when dealing with these power devices. Chapter 37. The 12-point physical attribute makes Shen Xingyan more confident and more at ease when exercising his strength. Fortunately, Li Liming was not around at the time, otherwise, with his understanding of the student's characteristics, he would be able to roughly judge Shen Xingyan's true strength through these subtle reactions and feel sorry for him. What a good seedling, but unfortunately he just had bad luck. Although Shen Xingyan's improvement in strength has little to do with the secret in his heart, he still thinks it is a very safe thing to reduce attention in the early stages. Under this intensity, Shen Xingyan also worked at full capacity, carrying out 3 hours of strength training and 3 hours of agility training as planned. During this period, Li Liming also came over to ask him if he had encountered any problems. Although he is now a coach here, he is also a teacher in the school. Seeing such a hard-working student, he felt deeply moved and also wanted to help as much as possible. However, every time this happened, Shen Xingyan would lower the difficulty, thank teacher Li for his kindness, and give a tactful refusal. Even before he obtained those 2 powerful skills, he would not accept other people's kindness casually. His classmate, the rich lady Chu Wei, had the most say in this. What's more, now he has enough confidence to deal with all the problems he encounters. At this time, he will not pretend to be weak and do things to win sympathy from others. This can be regarded as Shen Xingyan's pride since he was a child. Li Liming is subjectively very optimistic about such a strong-willed child. After all, if he had such an outstanding child, he would probably wake up laughing in his dreams. But objectively speaking, he did not think that Shen Xingyan's behavior was a wise move. He also knew about Shen Xingyan's family conditions and knew that the original poor conditions could not be improved in a short period of time even if he tried harder, not to mention that the other party was an awakened farmer. When all conditions cannot meet the needs, the other party still refuses some conveniences that are offered to the door. This seems a bit silly in today's crisis-ridden era. However, Shen Xingyan also insisted on refusing, and Li Liming had no choice but to sincerely tell the other party that he could come to him if he had any problems, and then left. Shen Xingyan looked at Li Liming's back and knew that he was also a kind person. At least for her current weak self, he really wanted to help her. After all, with my superficial conditions, there is nothing that others can covet. It is enough for him to understand the other party's goodwill, but he is no longer in the group that needs to accept kindness. After the other party walked away, he continued to increase the intensity of his exercise. Just like that, the 3-hour training was over, and Shen Xingyan, who was severely exhausted, took a short rest and began to recover his strength. During this time, he also took out the star source card and checked the information on it. He saw that the 4 major attributes were still the same as before and there was no change. My previous hope that my strength attribute could be improved through this training did not come true. But Shen Xingyan was not discouraged. Even if he had accumulated enough potential before awakening, he knew it would not take just a few hours to improve his attributes. There is a long way to go. These 4 words echoed in Shen Xingyan's heart. As his physical condition improved, Shen Xingyan's speed of recovering strength also increased. When his strength was partially restored, he went to the agility training equipment and started exercising. Shen Xingyan stopped training only after using up the last minute and being reminded by the timing device. The final result was not surprising at all, and the attribute column still showed no sign of change. Although there were no unexpected surprises, Shen Xingyan felt that these 6 hours were extremely fulfilling, which was completely different from the feeling of exercising alone at home. After all, humans are social animals. With other people of the same kind around, we do feel less lonely. Wiping the sweat off his face with a towel, Shen Xingyan wanted to continue for a few more hours to see if he could make it to the top. However, this idea was nipped in the bud by a strong will as soon as it came up. Although Shen Xingyan has not learned the story of being guilty of possessing a treasure, the lessons in reality are more direct and profound than those in books. Be steady, you still have to be steady, don't be impulsive, take it slow. Shen Xingyan warned himself in his heart. After preparing himself mentally, Shen Xingyan packed up his things and went to the front desk of the training hall to return the timer. You are Shen Xingyan, right? Coach Li asked me to give you a membership card. You can enjoy a 20% discount when you come for training next time. Please keep it. The front desk staff handed the membership card to Shen Xingyan without caring about Shen Xingyan's reaction. Before Shen Xingyan could say anything, the other party went to receive the next trainee. This time was the peak time for people to leave, and she did not pay much attention to Shen Xingyan. She had seen many young people like Shen Xingyan. At this stage of their career awakening, they were all full of energy, but after a while, the number of times they came would decrease, and those who could stick to it were rare. In her opinion, the membership card that Coach Li exchanged for his privileges would probably be of limited use in the future. But she didn't know that Shen Xingyan was a farmer, otherwise she would have looked at him differently. Shen Xingyan held the card and looked at the front desk staff who ignored him, and sighed slightly. This feeling suddenly reminded him of the time in school, when Chu Wei would always give him things regardless of whether he wanted to or not. Now he met a kind teacher named Li Liming, who used the same trick. This made him feel helpless but also warm in his heart. When I see Teacher Li again, I have to thank him and see what the market price of this card is. It's not the right time to do a direct transaction at equal value yet. I can only wait for a chance to repay him in the future. Shen Xingyan thought helplessly. Walking on this road he had traveled for more than 10 years, Shen Xingyan felt a lot of emotions. 10 days ago, his hopes were instantly shattered when he awakened to the farmer profession. The gloomy mood at that time and the current tired but hopeful mood are completely different. This made him feel more vivid when looking at the surrounding environment. Just as Shen Xingyan was sighing, an unusual noise came from the bushes. Nearby. Chapter 38. Shen Xingyan's home is relatively close to the border of the base, and due to his family conditions, he lives in a relatively desolate area. It cannot be said to be sparsely populated, but it is also relatively sparsely populated. At this time, there are no other people around. In this environment, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but pay attention to the unusual movement in the bushes. His heart subconsciously tensed up, and his body was ready for fighting. As the movement approached, Shen Xingyan slowly retreated. With his empty hands, he picked up a stone beside him to increase his fighting power. Just when Shen Xingyan was ready, the area of a abnormal movement in his sight suddenly became quiet. Just as he had a puzzled thought, he suddenly saw a black shadow rushing out and rushing towards him. Its speed was so fast that even the top humans before the energy explosion could not react in time, but Shen Xingyan was a fully attributed awakener, and he had been paying attention to that direction. When he saw the black shadow, his body subconsciously dodged, and the black shadow's attack missed. After Shen Xingyan stood still and saw the appearance of the culprit clearly, the uneasy feeling he had just felt was relieved, and he then clenched the stone in his hand. What was before his eyes at this moment was a disaster of the lowest level, or to be more precise, a disaster that had mutated from a rat, the giant rat. The explosion of original energy over 100 years ago caused all creatures on the blue planet to evolve to a certain extent. Creatures like mice were naturally no exception and were improved. At that time, the harm they posed to humans also increased exponentially. In that era, because of the different focus of growth, the growth rate of these creatures seemed even more astonishing. Their cultivation model is different from that of humans. Although the various attributes of the human body will be basically improved over time, they need to go through various exercises to achieve rapid improvement. The focus of natural growth is mainly on original energy, and other attributes are completely inferior to other creatures. Moreover, without the light column from the star source to help awaken, it would be very difficult to use the naturally increased energy. In the previous defense battle, these rats, due to their astonishing reproduction numbers, although their lethality was insufficient, they still caused considerable trouble to the professionals who had just awakened. Moreover, no matter how weak a disaster is, it is still a disaster, and its aggressiveness towards humans is natural. How could such a weak rat break through the border and come here? Shen Xingyan thought to himself as he observed. When he was in school before, Shen Xingyan had understood the characteristics of disasters. The huge rat in front of him was only famous for its speed, but its lethality was not great. Not to mention that he has now completed awakening and has completely surpassed his opponent in speed. Even before awakening, it would not be difficult for him to defeat his opponent as long as he seized the opportunity. The huge rat on the opposite side was also staring at Shen Xingyan, its fingernail-sized eyes rolling around as if analyzing the difference in power between the two sides, its two sharp front teeth exposed, showing its threat. However, Shen Xingyan did not wait for the other party to take the initiative to attack, but directly picked up the stone and rushed forward. With his current defense value of 12 points, it would not be easy for the other party to break through this defense. Shen Xingyan still had some confidence in this regard. The big rat saw that the tiny human opposite was not afraid of it at all and even took the initiative to attack it. It was immediately frightened by this momentum and quickly jumped up, turned around and ran away with its head in its hands, without any of the ferocity that it had when it attacked Shen Xingyan just now. But Shen Xingyan would not do as it wished. It fully utilized its 10-point speed and took 2 steps at a time to quickly get behind the rat. With a bang, Shen Xingyan's right hand holding the stone hit the rat's body directly, causing the rat to squeak in pain and its escape speed to slow down. Shen Xingyan ignored the reaction of the big rat, swung the stone in his hand and smashed it at the other party's head again, but the stone did not hit the real target. The big rat suddenly disappeared from the spot, which made him stunned. When Shen Xingyan saw the other party again, the rat was already dozens of meters away. However, because he was hit hard by Shen Xingyan just now, his movement speed slowed down a lot. Shen Xingyan didn't think much about it and took another step to catch up. Although the rat tried its best to escape, it was soon caught up by Shen Xingyan, who hit it on the head repeatedly until it was dying and could not move at all, and then he stopped. Looking at the huge rat that still showed no signs of being alive, Shen Xingyan stood up and let out a long sigh. At this moment, his physical strength, which had been consumed due to training in the training hall, was almost exhausted after the intense battle just now. Although it was only a short period of time, the consumption was huge and sweat couldn't help but overflow on his forehead. This also made him realize the essential difference between actual combat and daily exercise. This was also the first time that Shen Xingyan had experienced such a direct confrontation with a disaster. The calmness he had forced himself to show just now disappeared into thin air, and was replaced by a feeling of fear. What if this time it wasn't a low-level rat, but a higher-level disaster? Would he still be able to kill it so easily? After all, on the battlefield, it's either you or I. The uncertain answer in his heart made him skip a beat. You know, he now possesses 2 powerful skills. If something unexpected happens in the early stages of his development because of these accidents, he feels that his death is too unfair. Over the past decade, he has been hearing professionals say that the closer to the border, the more dangerous it is. Although he thought so before, he did not have a very intuitive feeling. Now the occurrence of this small disaster has made Shen Xingyan feel even more deeply. Now that disasters are starting to occur, it's possible that this place will become even more chaotic in the future. It seems like I have to rent a house near the school as soon as possible, so that my sister will be much safer. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but think too much about the situation in front of him, and he made up his mind. It was not until this time that he thought of checking the condition of the huge rat under his feet. Shen Xingyan squatted down to examine the prey that he had beaten to a bloody pulp. It was the first time he had seen a disaster at such a close distance, and he didn't know how to describe the feeling for a moment. There was novelty, excitement, but more of it was hatred. After all, his originally happy family was destroyed by these disasters, so he couldn't help but hate them. And now he had taken the first step towards revenge. While inspecting it, Shen Xingyan discovered that the belly of this giant rat seemed to be much bigger than what he had learned from the information, which was indescribable. Unfortunately, he had no tools to cut the rat, so he could only take the rat home and cut it up to see what was going on. The meat of the rat could also be separated and sold on the free trade market. Chapter 39. Shen Xingyan returned home carrying the rat not long after, and Shen Xingyan had already returned from school. At this time, she was a little panicked. After she returned home as usual, she did not see her brother. She was quite confused at first. After all, Shen Xingyan had not gone out since he awakened his profession, and when she came back this time, she saw that her brother's room door was open, and there was no trace of him inside. This made Shen Xingyan, who had already formed a habit, suddenly feel very uncomfortable, and she began to think too much. After all, her brother was her only relative in the world, and she was a little panicked for a while because of her concern. Fortunately, her mood did not last long. Shen Xingyan came back, which calmed her panicked mood. "Brother, where have you been? You are not here when you come back." Shen Xingyan was delighted to see her brother, but she couldn't stop complaining. Before, the brother and sister went to and from school together, but since Shen Xingyan awakened, she has been traveling alone between school and home. It would be a lie to say that she doesn't feel lonely. No matter how good the relationship with classmates at school is, it can't compare to Shen Xingyan, a relative. However, before Shen Xingyan, could answer, Shen Xingyan discovered the black monster in her brother's hand. She was so scared that she took a few steps back instinctively. Then she said in surprise and doubt, "Brother, Brother, what is this thing in your hand? It looks like the giant rat in the monster information. Shen Xingyan pointed at the huge rat in her brother's hand and spoke with some stammering. At this time, the huge rat in Shen Xingyan's hand had been smashed so hard that its specific appearance could not be seen clearly, but Shen Xingyan could still vaguely judge it through some clues. It has to be said that the base protected Shen Xingyan and other children very well. In this disaster-ridden place, they were able to grow up in a safe environment for more than 10 years without coming into contact with these creatures from outside the world. So it was the first time that Shen Xingyan saw this kind of strange beast. She was surprised and couldn't help but feel curious. You're right, it's a rat. Don't worry, it's been dealt with on the way. Shen Xingyan felt relieved to see his sister staying safely at home. After all, if there is one, there could be two. With my sister's ability, there is a possibility that she might get hurt if she is not careful. While answering his sister's questions, he took out the dissection tools, ready to dissect it according to the school's tutorial and see what the abnormal bulge was. But I was a little worried in my heart, thinking, it seems that I will have to accompany my sister to and from school in the future, at least until I can afford to move closer to the school, just in case. Shen Xingyan looked at his brother's actions and became very curious. The subconscious fear he had just felt disappeared and he moved forward to observe carefully. Seeing his sister's curious look, Shen Xingyan smiled and explained to her the key points of anatomical disasters. Although these were covered in the school curriculum, he was still a little awkward as it was his first time doing it himself. When Shen Xingyan completely cut open the stomach of the giant rat, the contents inside were fully displayed to the two of them. Brother, there's something in this rat's stomach. After adapting to the discomfort at the beginning of the dissection, Shen Xingyan returned to normal. When he saw the leaf of strange color in the rat's stomach, he shouted excitedly. Different from Shen Xingyan's excitement, Shen Xingyan frowned. After seeing this thing, he instinctively felt that something was wrong. He subconsciously maintained a certain vigilance towards this unknown thing. He picked it up firmly with pliers and was about to take a closer look at what it was. But after the leaf separated from the rat's body, it suddenly seemed to come alive. Before Shen Xingyan could react, it began to shake violently with increasing force, and it seemed as if it was about to get out of control and fly away. Shen Xingyan was a little overwhelmed by this sudden change, but with his steady personality, he did not rush to grab it immediately. He always put his own safety as the first principle. Why is it moving? Shen Xingyan was also shocked when she saw this strange phenomenon, and wanted to go up and help control it. But Shen Xingyan refused and asked her to stand aside for safety reasons. Just when he didn't know what to do, his star source card appeared with a swoosh and flashed next to the leaf. The violently shaking leaf seemed to have sensed the existence of the star source card and suddenly crashed into it. Shen Xingyan watched helplessly as this somewhat strange leaf merged into his star source card in a very short time. Afterwards, the Xingyan card seemed to be fine and returned to Shen Xingyan's hand, lying there quietly, and the scene returned to its previous calm. This sudden change scared the brother and sister nearby. This puzzling phenomenon made them stunned. You should know that the star source card is naturally generated when everyone awakens, and its essence is still an unsolved mystery. All you know is that this thing will always follow the awakened person, and no one else can impose any restrictions on it. Even if the star source card is thrown into an unknown place, when the awakened person thinks of it, it will automatically appear in his hand. It is quite magical, not to mention that its function can only be used by the awakened person instinctively. The importance of the star source card is self-evident. In addition to being a bridge connecting the star wish world, it also has many functions, but some functions require money to activate. Now the Xingyan card actually took the initiative to absorb the leaf just now. This matter was indescribably strange. Shen Xingyan quickly checked the Xingyan card and saw a small and delicate leaf pattern in the lower right corner of the front of the card. It seems that this is the leaf that Xingyan card absorbed just now. Shen Xingyan guessed. Seeing her brother's expression, Shen Xingyan also moved closer, wanting to see what was going on. However, the Xingyan card in her eyes was just pitch black, and she could not see anything. Shen Xingyan hesitated for a moment, but slowly placed the Xingyan card on his forehead and checked the contents. However, the extra content in the Xingyan card made Shen Xingyan open his mouth in surprise. How could there be such a thing inside the body of a tiny rat? This was Shen Xingyan's thought at the moment. Chapter 40. At this moment, in Shen Xingyan's eyes, his own attributes in reality were clearly presented in front of him. After careful inspection, he found that there was suddenly an extra line of text under his talent skills, perception, consume a corresponding amount of energy to increase the corresponding amount of perception value, which lasts for 1 hour, and the skill cooldown time is 24 hours. The current perception value is 8 points. Skill evolved from Bodhi Leaf. After seeing the introduction of this perception skill, Shen Xingyan's doubts about the leaf just now were instantly resolved, but after understanding this skill, he couldn't help but gasp. This skill evolved from the leaf just now actually increases the comprehension value. You should know that the two attributes of comprehension and luck are well-known hidden attributes, and they cannot be improved by increasing levels like the four-dimensional attributes. For ordinary people, it is harder than climbing to the sky to improve any of these without any other special opportunities. Some people say that the attribute of insight is wisdom, some people say it is the ability to understand, and some people even equate it with the thoughts of living things. It has multiple interpretations, but it is not limited to these. Although the attribute of insight is somewhat mysterious and people are unclear about its essence, the role it can play is what attracts many people. For example, when Shen Xingyan was learning a martial art at school, it took him 1 day to get started with his initial comprehension value of 8 points. However, if someone with a lower comprehension value than him had the same other conditions, that person would need 2 days to master it. This is the most common understanding of insight, and it is also the difference between people. Insight determines a person's way of thinking and the speed at which he or she understands things. It can be said to be an important factor in determining whether a person is a genius. The current perception skill can not only improve the value in this aspect, but the more energy you have, the greater the improvement will be. This made him very happy. After all, in the future he would add all his attribute points to the original energy. In the future, extracting the original energy points from the star source world to the real world would be of great use. Although according to the introduction, it can only maintain a high level of enlightenment for 1 hour a day, it is completely sufficient. This unexpected good news made Shen Xingyan excited. He thought that he could be among the top students in school with only 8 points of comprehension. Although it was inseparable from his hard work, comprehension was also indispensable. Moreover, when he has enough money in the future, he can also buy some advanced skills to learn and improve his combat capability, in preparation for going outside the realm in the future. Only then will his comprehension come in handy. Shen Xingyan's thoughts began to fly because of the arrival of this skill. Then after this excitement, Shen Xingyan frowned again, because he suddenly realized the contradiction in the current situation. This suddenly appearing Bodhi leaf was a little too weird. How could something so counterintuitive appear on a tiny rat? Should we be careful of overjoyed people turning into sad ones? Shen Xingyan couldn't help but groan when he thought of this, and the danger quickly spread to his mind. Shen Xingyan forced himself to suppress the restlessness in his heart, and quickly thought about the possibility of this incident leading to danger, but he was a little confused and had no idea. After all, this incident happened too suddenly and inexplicably. First, a disaster that he hadn't encountered in more than 10 years suddenly appeared in front of him. After he killed it, he found the Bodhi leaf on its body. His star source card directly absorbed it, and then it appeared in this skill again. The whole incident was too dreamy and full of confusion. His subconscious now gave him the feeling that if he didn't handle it properly, danger would befall him. This chaotic state made him feel like an ant on a hot pan, suffering from the torment of water and fire, but somewhat at a loss as to what to do. At this time, Shen Xingyan subconsciously looked at the perception skill he had just obtained, thinking, since there is no clue at all, it is better to pin my hopes on this culprit. Thinking of this, he did not hesitate to put all his 18 points of energy into the skill of perception. With the activation of the perception skill, the description of the perception skill in Shen Xingyan's attribute column has also changed. The number that previously indicated Shen Xingyan's current perception value of 8 has now directly become 17 points. The comprehension value increased by 9 points, and the improvement ratio of perception skills reached an astonishing 2:1, which far exceeded Shen Xingyan's previous prediction. However, although Shen Xingyan saw this gratifying discovery, he did not have time to be happy, but started to analyze the incident in a hurry. Shen Xingyan, who was standing by, felt a little helpless as she saw her brother becoming more and more worried. In her mind, her brother was like the eternal sky of the family, calm and composed, and rarely showed such an expression. Just as she was about to go up and ask her brother what had happened, she suddenly found that her brother's anxious mood just now disappeared in an instant. Then an inexplicable aura emanated from her brother, and he also entered a state of thinking, which made her swallow back the words she was about to say, and she looked at her brother with a worried look on her face. As his comprehension improved, Shen Xingyan felt an unprecedented smoothness in his thinking, and all kinds of ideas would come to his mind as soon as he had a thought. At this moment, his thoughts flashed like lightning, and he was analyzing, summarizing, and concluding the entire incident over and over again. In just 2 minutes, he came up with countless reasons. Finally, based on the current actual situation, he chose one of the most credible ideas. Could it be that this huge rat did not come through the border, but was preparing to escape outside the border? Once this line of thought came up, all other thoughts gradually began to become reasonable. And Shen Xingyan also understood why he felt a sense of danger. After figuring this out, Shen Xingyan immediately ran to the utility room, picked up a shovel and other tools, and headed straight for the place where he had just fought with the rat. Before leaving, he reminded his sister, "I'm going out for a while. You stay at home and don't go anywhere. Don't move this rat. Just wait until I come back." Shen Xingyan said this, and before leaving, he did not forget to smile to comfort his sister. Chapter 41. Although Shen Xingyan didn't know what her brother was going to do, she still stood there and nodded obediently, telling Shen Xingyan not to worry about her. Shen Xingyan smiled with relief when he saw this, then closed the door tightly, and tiptoed carefully to check the traces around him, moving towards the place where the battle had just taken place. It was already dark when he came out. Although there was no one in their area at this time, he still pretended to be nothing just to be on the safe side. He walked forward at a normal pace, and even passers-by would not notice anything unusual about him. Along the way, Shen Xingyan always inadvertently collected the blood that had dripped along the way, and gently smoothed it out so that no trace could be seen. Now that he has the blessing of perception skills, even if he has never done this kind of thing before, relying on his strong comprehension ability, he can grasp the essence of it in an instant. Shen Xingyan's movements were extremely skillful and natural, like a veteran in destroying and covering up traces of corpses. Every trace he handled left no trace of flaws visible. Fortunately, there is no one on the road now, which greatly reduces the risk of Shen Xingyan being exposed and is also very beneficial for his subsequent operations. Arriving at the place where traces were everywhere, Shen Xingyan looked at the traces of fierce fighting and quickly thought of ways to remedy the situation. The strong smell here made it difficult for him to hide his tracks even if he tried his best. If someone used special means to investigate, his tracks would probably be discovered. This made him feel very troubled. However, at this moment, his superb comprehension began to work again. The moment this problem arose, a solution automatically popped up in his mind. Rather than having to cover up the truth and causing it to be exposed, it is better not to cover it up at all, and then change the route of the rat to extend outside the boundary. This way, even if someone tries every means to find it, they can only search along this route and will not find us. The moment this plan came up, Shen Xingyan felt that it was highly feasible and could allow him to achieve his safety goal at the lowest cost and time. Finally, even if his estimate was wrong and no one would investigate the matter, it would at most be a waste of effort. Just think of it as taking action to gain peace of mind. It wouldn't have much of an impact. As soon as the decision was made, Shen Xingyan did not hesitate and took immediate action, making some detailed adjustments to the battle scene, changing the direction of the traces while keeping the basics intact. Then, the bloody soil collected along the way was spread out at certain intervals along the rat's assumed escape route, and the laying did not stop until it was almost at the border. After everything was done, Shen Xingyan thought again whether there was anything missing. His improved understanding allowed him to analyze very quickly. After repeated deductions, he found that as long as he took a detour back home and paid attention to the traces along the way, there would be no problem. The result of this deduction made Shen Xingyan breathe a sigh of relief. He rubbed his temples to relieve the swelling in his head. Looking up at the tall border wall in front of him, thinking of the vast world outside the border across the wall, Shen Xingyan subconsciously clenched his fists and thought to himself, disasters outside, just wait for me. Sooner or later, I will let you know what fear is and make you regret coming into this world. Shen Xingyan took a deep look at the sky outside the world, then hurriedly moved carefully, took several detours, and even changed the direction of his shoes in the middle. After walking for a while, he finally returned to his home. Brother, are you okay? What happened? Shen Xingyan saw that her brother finally came back, a look of worry appeared on her face, and she walked up to him and asked with concern. After Shen Xingyan cleaned up and put away all the tools, he smiled and said, "It's okay, everything has been dealt with. It's possible that I'm overthinking it, so don't worry." His tone was full of certainty, as if the person who was so nervous and at a loss just now was not him. When Shen Xingyan heard what her brother said, she felt relieved. After all, her brother was always steady and now that he said it was okay, nothing big would happen. This was a tacit understanding between the two siblings since childhood. Reassured, Shen Xingyan thought of the strange scene just now and couldn't help asking, "Brother, what was that leaf-shaped thing just now? How did it melt directly into your card?" Faced with his sister's question, Shen Xingyan thought about it for a while and chose not to tell her everything. He just said that the leaf just now could temporarily improve the body's attributes, but he did not say the specific number. After all, in this age where we have to rely on others even for self-protection, the less we know about some things, the safer we are. Only the two of us know about this now. Don't tell anyone else, okay? Although the information Shen Xingyan just said would not matter even if his sister accidentally told it, he still reminded his sister not to reveal it easily. When Shen Xingyan heard that the leaf was actually a rare item that could increase attributes, she subconsciously converted it into 10 gold coins, and then her eyes suddenly lit up. I have never seen so much money before, no wonder my brother took it so seriously just now. Shen Xingyan thought subconsciously with a firm look on his face, and began to automatically imagine Shen Xingyan's previous actions. Then she looked at Shen Xingyan with surprise and nodded heavily, indicating that she was determined to keep the secret. Amid Shen Xingyan's somewhat surprised laughter, she skipped back to her room and started exercising. Shen Xingyan's behavior just now caused her to miss a good exercise, so she had to make up for it. Shen Xingyan looked at his sister's closed door and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then he went to the kitchen and completely destroyed the meat of the rat. Only after all traces of the rat were wiped out did he feel completely relieved. At this time, the increase in understanding brought by the perception skill also disappeared, and he sat down on the stool to calm his mind. After Shen Xingyan had dealt with everything, on the road outside that was completely shrouded in darkness, a group of men in black who were moving so fast that they seemed to leave after images suddenly appeared at the place where Shen Xingyan had fought with the rat. Chapter 42. Sir, we found this place based on the traces along the way. We discovered traces of the stinky rat fighting with people. The traces indicate that the stinky rat must have escaped with injuries. A man in black bowed and said to a burly man with an impatient look on his face. This man, who stood out and looked quite dignified among the many men in black, was obviously the leader of the group. He simply glanced at the traces on the ground, frowned and said, "See where the last direction of the escape was." The man in black responded immediately and was about to check again when another man in black suddenly appeared beside the burly man and said respectfully, "Sir, bloodstains of rats were found ahead. They are fleeing towards the border." The man in black was obviously a veteran, and after judging from various clues, he was very sure of his ideas. Chase. The burly man gave the order without any doubt. Following the order from the burly man, all the men in black disappeared from the spot and arrived at the edge of the border wall in less than a minute. But they did not see any trace of the rat. After some investigation and based on the talent skills shown in the information, the men in black came to the final conclusion and reported to the burly man, "Sir, the last trace of the mouse disappeared here. I think it has escaped out of the boundary using its innate skill flash. Should we continue chasing it?" The man in black reported the news to the burly man and asked him to make a decision. The burly man did not show any anger when he heard this. Instead, he yawned and said, "Give me a report with this conclusion. Since the little guy has already escaped outside the boundary, we can't do anything about the complex and ever-changing environment. Call it a day." After saying this, the burly man disappeared from the spot neatly, but before he left, he could still vaguely hear the other party muttering, "If I had known this would be the result, I would have been chased for 2 days and 2 nights in vain. I had to consider the impact along the way, and acted like a thief. I didn't sleep well and couldn't participate in the group. The people in the family are really a bunch of..." The men in black around also had strange looks on their faces when they heard these words, but they also knew the character of the burly man, so they chose to pretend that they didn't hear anything. They looked at each other, saw a hint of helplessness in each other's eyes, and then disappeared into the night. However, Shen Xingyan did not know at this time that his arrangement had produced remarkable results and successfully deceived those experienced searchers. If he knew, he would definitely be impressed by the power of this perception skill, and would also feel fortunate. After all, he did it on purpose and achieved such an effect with the bonus after strengthening his perception. This effect cannot be compared with those search workers who have been engaged in the search for many years. After having dinner with her sister, Shen Xingyan returned to her room and started exercising. While exercising in the room, he had to observe the movements outside from time to time. Although he now thought that the arrangement just now was perfect, he was still afraid of any unexpected situation. Fortunately, a few hours passed and everything around was still very calm. Shen Xingyan slowly calmed down. After several hours of training, Shen Xingyan saw that the time to enter the Star Source world was approaching, so he stopped training, went to the kitchen to fill his stomach, and returned to bed to wait for the countdown to enter the Star Source world. The real world is still too dangerous, especially now that I am weak and have so many secrets. There is a risk of being exposed if I am not careful. I do feel a little nervous. I still need to improve my strength quickly. Everything else is false. At this stage, I can only hope that the field output will break the record, and the Xingyan world will be able to reward me with things that will improve my strength. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but think as he lay on the bed. As the cooling time ended, Shen Xingyan connected his consciousness to the Star Source card, and he appeared in his career space with ease. Shen Xingyan looked at the peaceful farmland scene in front of him and compared it with the actual situation, and couldn't help but sigh. Seeing the 11 little skeletons working diligently in the fields, Shen Xingyan found them even cuter. Wang Ke and other skeletons also noticed Shen Xingyan's arrival, and they couldn't help but turn their heads to look at him. "Let's get on with our work," Shen Xingyan said with a smile. Through the conscious connection between him and the little skeletons, and in this unusually quiet planting space, the sound was amplified a lot. Even though he was just speaking at a normal volume, all the little skeletons were able to receive the command. The 11 little skeletons also obediently returned to the farm work in front of them and started working steadily. Seeing that the little skeletons began to get busy, Shen Xingyan nodded with satisfaction. But he did not go down to the fields to join them. Instead, he found a comfortable place to rest. Now his professional skills and talent skills have not completely cooled down, so he can only take advantage of this time to recover his spirit. After all, after he uses his professional skills, the crazy attack of Star Source prompts cannot be eliminated in a short time. While taking a break, Shen Xingyan opened the Xingyan Mall and entered Bodhi Leaf to search. After all, Xingyan Mall seemed to have everything, and as long as you could afford the price, you could find almost anything here. He also wanted to see what the properties of this thing were. The final search result surprised him so much that he stood up from where he was lying. Item, Bodhi Leaf value, 1000 gold coins attributes, can be used to improve the comprehension value of professionals. The younger the professional is, the higher the improvement will be. There is a certain chance of awakening the corresponding skills. Usage limit, one person can use it 3 times. A tiny leaf actually costs 1000 gold coins. Looks like I've made a fortune this time. At this time, the Bodhi leaf in the Xingyan Mall actually showed that one leaf cost 1000 gold coins. Wouldn't it be worth at least 10,000 gold coins in reality? Moreover, he actually triggered the probability and awakened the perception skill, which made him feel incredible. This discovery made Shen Xingyan, whose mental energy was almost exhausted, feel dizzy. Is it so easy for me to own a fortune of millions? This is too magical. At this time, Shen Xingyan still dared to believe it. However, danger sometimes coexists with opportunity. If he did not provide the following guidance, the blessing might turn into a disaster. Good fortune and disaster are interdependent, and this is the cycle of nature. Chapter 43. Shen Xingyan prepared himself for a long time in his heart before he accepted this shocking fact. He fell straight back and then hit the ground heavily, feeling that life after awakening was so wonderful and exciting. When the little skeletons working in the fields heard the noise, they instinctively gathered around to protect Shen Xingyan. Seeing the little skeletons gathering around him, Shen Xingyan smiled happily and waved his hand to let them continue working. Shen Xingyan looked at the cooldown time of his professional skills, set the reminder function of the Xingyan world to the corresponding time, and then fell asleep soundly with a beautiful reverie. After a day of exercise, the high level of tension just now, and that stimulating number, the changing emotions made him feel mentally exhausted. Not long after he closed his eyes, he fell into a deep sleep. But he didn't know how furious he, the culprit, made a cousin of the famous Liu family far away in the central area. You are useless. You can't even catch a lowly mouse. What use do I have for you? You are useless. At this time, a man who looked to be in his 40s was scolding the group of people standing in front of him in a condescending tone. Upon closer inspection, These people were the group of men in black who appeared at the border a few hours ago. Uncle, this is not our fault. You didn't even know how much time had passed when you found it. We were already very lucky to find it based on some clues. You wasted time and it ran out of bounds. What else can we do? The burly man who had appeared at the border before also had an indifferent expression on his face at this time. He looked at his uncle in front of him and spoke with an indifferent tone. The burly man looked at his uncle's face, with an indifferent attitude on the surface, but full of disdain in his heart. Tisk, an old man in his 80s has to spend a lot of money to make himself the same age as his son. How shameless. He could use the money to improve his own strength. Instead of learning sissy things, it's disgusting to watch. If you were not a generation older than me, with your strength, you would have been beaten out long ago. In other words, you are lucky to be born in that newly stable period, and your family is doing its best to help you become a senior pharmacist, and they also hope that you can provide considerable resources to the family. If it were now, someone like you with poor professional skills and no talent would have been thrown out of the world to fend for yourself. The most regrettable thing is that this time you actually spent 10,000 gold coins to buy Bodhi leaves for your newly awakened dandy grandson. How bold. That's 10,000 gold coins, which can be used to cash out 1,000 attribute points for the tribe members, but it was wasted for your grandson who only knows how to eat, drink and have fun all day long. It's really annoying. Although the burly man could have said these words directly, he chose not to do so. After all, this money-making tool still had some prestige in the tribe. Saying these words out loud would not be worth the loss, so he could only secretly criticize it in his heart. Is that an excuse? Is that an excuse? Get out of here. The uncle mentioned by the burly man became even more furious when he heard this. Especially the indifferent expression on the burly man's face, which made his already irritable mood even worse. He originally wanted to use this mouse to practice with his precious grandson in real life, but who knew that this mouse's innate skill was actually a spatial skill like Flash. It not only stole the surprise he prepared for his grandson, the Bodhi leaf, but also let it escape. That money was the result of decades of his hard work, and it was gone in an instant. His heart seemed to be bleeding. After hearing this, the burly man ignored it and left with his men grumbling. As he walked, he muttered quietly, "You deserve it. You're not allowed to do anything human every day. Over the years, you've harmed so many young girls in the name of research. You're an old pervert." Bah! The uncle was naturally able to hear the burly man's muttering. He was so angry that he was about to step forward to show his authority as an elder, but after taking a few steps forward, he stopped. The burly man was an outstanding figure among their Lu family's generation. He just had to keep up appearances in normal times, and he didn't dare to do anything to him. Moreover, arguing about this fact would ruin his reputation. Although he was angry, he felt that it was not worth it. Although Uncle Lu thought so, he had no way to vent the frustration in his heart. Not only did he lose money but his past was also exposed. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Finally, he felt dizzy and almost fainted on the ground. Fortunately, a servant beside him was quick to catch him, so he didn't make a fool of himself in public. Shen Xingyan, who was dreaming in the planting space at this time, was completely unaware of this. As the previously set star source prompt rang in his ears, he woke up from his sleep. After sitting up, I stretched a little, feeling much more refreshed both physically and mentally. I checked the attribute panel and saw that the cooldown time of my professional skills would be up in a few seconds. He also quickly cheered up, stood up, and took the cane in his hand with a thought. Seeing the end of the cooldown countdown, Shen Xingyan began to chant softly, and 25 points of energy began to gather from his body to the cane, pouring out as the chanting was completed, instantly covering the entire field. After a day of growth, the wheat and potato seedlings, which had turned lush and green, seemed to have been fast-forwarded. Each plant was growing upward with all its might, and the soil that was vaguely visible was instantly covered. Shen Xingyan finished casting the spell, but all the crops showed no sign of stopping growing. This continued for nearly half a minute before all the crops stopped fast-forwarding and returned to their normal growth rate. However, at this time, Shen Xingyan's battle with the little skeletons had just begun, because the star source prompts began to appear rapidly. The 12 laborers who were already on high alert also took action immediately. Shen Xingyan led the 3 little skeletons to deal with the prompts for the 1 acre of wheat in the central area first. The remaining skeletons, led by Wang Ke, were divided into 2 groups, with each 2 skeletons responsible for 1 acre of field. With such a clear division of labor, the star source prompts were being eliminated at an extremely fast speed, and the frequency of basic prompts also began to slow down due to their efforts. Just when Shen Xingyan thought that today would continue at this pace, suddenly a new prompt appeared above the wheat field, causing all the laborers, including Shen Xingyan, to be stunned. Chapter 44. Congratulations on starting the fertilization maintenance task. You will be rewarded with the fertilizer required for the current land, 300 kilograms. Please complete the fertilization task as soon as possible. You can go to Xingyuan Mall to purchase subsequent fertilization tasks. As this prompt from Xingyuan World appeared beside Shen Xingyan's ears, he immediately realized what this strange icon meant, and thought with some confusion in his heart, when I was looking up information before, I learned that after the farmer profession reaches level 10, a reminder task to fertilize the farmland will appear, but I am only level 5 now, how come it is triggered in advance? Shen Xingyan thought about this, somewhat confused. But then, considering his own situation and thinking about the planting privilege he got when he broke the record, he suddenly realized, could it be related to the potato planting he did? The more he thought about it, the more certain he became that the early appearance of the fertilization task must be related to potatoes, the second level seed. The explanation in the data should be wrong. New tasks will not appear after reaching level 10, but after planting seeds of a higher level. The person who wrote the data does not have this privilege, so he misunderstood this. After figuring out the reasons, Shen Xingyan shook his head slightly and sighed. It seems that what the ancients said was true. It is true that it is better to have no books than to believe in them blindly. After sighing, Shen Xingyan also opened the backpack space to check the fertilizer of the star source reward. Item, fertilizer quantity, 300 kilograms applicable area, 3000 square meters attributes. It can enhance the nutrition of fields, improve soil quality, and be used for farmers' professional maintenance tasks. Looking at the fertilizer that occupied a grid in the backpack, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but fall into deep thought. According to the records in the data, after level 10, there will be 2 or 3 times during the seed planting period when fertilizer needs to be applied. This should be correct. However, the specific time for fertilizing is uncertain. If this prompt appears when you are away and the fertilizer is in your backpack, how should the little skeletons fertilize? If the lack of fertilizer leads to a emission stagnation phenomenon, resulting in reduced crop yields and affecting record breaking, it will be a bit troublesome. Shen Xingyan was thinking about how to deal with this problem. Suddenly, he saw a well not far away. An idea suddenly came to his mind. He slapped his head and said to himself, I am so confused. I have to think about such a simple thing. Can't I just let the little skeletons fertilize like irrigation? Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan immediately took action. After all, the ancients said that practice is the only criterion for testing truth. Now that there is a reminder to fertilize, it will save a lot of trouble if the little skeletons learn it. He came to the open space next to the warehouse, spent 100 copper coins from Xingyuan Mall, bought a 16 square meter wooden board, and placed it on the ground. Then he took out the fertilizer that the Star Source World had just rewarded from his backpack and threw it on the wooden board. These 300 kilograms of fertilizer only take up a small space in the backpack, but when placed on the wooden board, it can hardly fit. Then he spent 100 copper coins to buy 20 buckets from the Xingyuan Mall. He placed them next to the wooden board, just like the buckets he bought for irrigation, for the little skeletons to use for fertilization later. Seeing that everything was ready, Shen Xingyan clapped his hands, called Wang Ke to his side according to the old rules, and began to teach him how to apply fertilizer. The clever Wang Ke naturally lived up to expectations, and under the guidance of Shen Xingyan, he quickly mastered all the essentials of fertilizing. Then Shen Xingyan asked it to guide the other skeletons. He himself was not in a hurry to apply fertilizer in the fields. He wanted to wait until the little skeletons had learned before taking any action. After all, sharpening the knife does not delay the chopping of wood. During this period of time, his innate summoning skill also completed its cooldown, and he skillfully used his innate skill to summon his 12th little skeleton. Shen Xingyan was very satisfied with the little skeleton summoned in front of him, which was obviously cleaner and stronger than the original Wang Ke. However, after checking its attributes, all of them were still 1. He was used to it, so he followed the old rules and gave it to Wang Ke for guidance. Then I searched for fertilizer in Xingyuan Mall. The price per kilogram of fertilizer here is indeed not expensive, only 2 copper coins per kilogram. Shen Xingyan spent 1,200 copper coins to purchase the amount required for 2 fertilization tasks. After all the little skeletons had finished learning, Shen Xingyan divided 300 kilograms of fertilizer into 5 portions, each weighing 60 kilograms, and placed them directly in the center of each acre of land using the space in his backpack. He then officially announced the start of work. When it comes to fertilizing, the little skeleton's work efficiency is not as good as Shen Xingyan's. This is because he has a space backpack. He only needs to put some fertilizer into the backpack and then he can spread it at will. There is no need to run back and forth like the little skeletons. Unfortunately, Xingyuan World did not allow Shen Xingyan to put the water in the well into his backpack, otherwise the irrigation task would have become much easier. During the entire fertilizing period, Shen Xingyan didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that when Wang Ke saw him fertilizing, there was a look of envy in his eyes. But the other person clearly had no eyes, so he just thought it was an illusion. The fertilization task was quickly completed by Shen Xingyan in a way that was almost like cheating, and Xingyuan's prompt also appeared at the same time. Congratulations, you have completed your first fertilization mission. As a reward, the growth progress of all crops will be increased by 10%. I wish you a happy life. With the appearance of this reward prompt, the crops that were originally very calm began to riot again, and the branches began to grow wildly. If this happened to other farmers, they would probably be amazed and ecstatic for a long time. But for Shen Xingyan, who was already accustomed to the scene, he was only slightly surprised and then regained his composure. The reward for this fertilizing task is actually the same as the effect of my professional skill, which is pretty good. I can make up for the skill I used before because of the wheat record. Shen Xingyan nodded with satisfaction, feeling that Xingyuan World was very considerate. However, he was also very clear about the side effects of this kind of reward. Not long after he had used his professional skills, the farmland prompts had just begun to slow down, and now suddenly such a reward came. With the combination of the two, the strength of the star source prompts would reach a new height. Sure enough, before long, the maintenance prompt from the star source world came swiftly and violently. Judging from its intensity, it was clear that the next battle would be difficult. Chapter 45. When Shen Xingyan saw the maintenance prompts pouring in, he did not hesitate to start another round of high-intensity work with the little skeletons. Seeing Xingyuan's attitude, Shen Xingyan didn't expect to be lazy and take a rest today. He sighed and said, just work hard. However, what happened next seemed to verify what he said, and he couldn't help but scold himself for being a pessimist. Because the overall growth progress of all crops increased by 20% in such a short period of time, the frequency of Xingyuan's maintenance prompts appeared extremely fast, far exceeding the past and also greatly exceeding Shen Xingyan's estimation. Oh my god, are you so powerful? You can't bully me now with the speed you appear. When I have a skeleton army of 10,000 people, let's see what you can do to me. Although he also knew that the dream of a 10,000-man skeleton army would not be realized until 27 years later unless something unexpected happened, he was just thinking about it now, and it was like he was drawing a pie in the sky for himself. At this time, Shen Xingyan had not yet realized the seriousness of the problem, and he even had the energy to imagine this matter. However, his self-indulgent thoughts did not last long, as he was brought back to reality by the speed at which the Xingyuan prompt appeared. Just because this wave of prompts appeared too frequently, seriously beyond Shen Xingyan's cognition, he had to focus all his energy on working, and the speed of his work was also increased to the fastest frequency in history. Thanks to the previous wheat harvest, his professional level was upgraded 3 levels, which increased all his attribute values a euro in the star source world by 3 points. Judging from his current attributes, if he works at full strength, he is more than twice as strong as before, and the value of his labor is already equivalent to 2.5 small skeletons. No wonder other farmers, after reaching advanced levels, can take care of all the fields by themselves. However, despite his all-out efforts, the final result was somewhat unsatisfactory. The frequency of Xingyuan's maintenance reminders has not only not decreased, but has tended to increase. Although Shen Xingyan and the little skeletons have tried their best to complete all the work, they still cannot keep up with the rhythm of the maintenance prompts. This time, the Xingyuan maintenance reminders seemed to be madly avenging the humiliation that Shen Xingyan and others had given them before. Tasks were being distributed frantically, as if all tasks were to be concentrated in this time period. Not only was there no time to breathe, but Shen Xingyan even saw for the first time what a double prompt was. Shen Xingyan had also learned about this aspect before. The precursor to task stagnation is this double prompt, which is a warning signal given by the star source world. If these tasks are not completed in time, then a triple prompt will appear. The emergence of the triple prompt also means that the professions don't have much time left. If this prompt appears for longer than a certain period of time, the Xingyuan world will make a mission stagnation judgment, followed by penalties, making a reduction in the final harvest a foregone conclusion. This is something that most farmers experience frequently and it is not a strange thing for them. However, Shen Xingyan, who has a small skeleton working 24 hours a day, has never experienced such a thing since he awakened his profession. Unexpectedly, 2 star source prompt icons were floating above Shen Xingyan's current farmland. This opened Shen Xingyan's eyes, and all the little skeletons were stunned where they were, not knowing which prompt to prioritize, as if they were in a state of downtime. Shen Xingyan looked at the little skeletons in a daze, and after a little thought, he realized the loophole in the instructions he had given before. I just told Wang Ke and the others to work according to Xingyuan's prompts, but I didn't tell them how to work when 2 prompts appear at the same time. It's like a car that can only go straight, and suddenly you give it 2 turns to choose from. The result is that it can't move. After thinking this through, he quickly modified the instructions. Wang Ke, modify the work instructions. From now on, whichever prompt appears first will be handled first. Pass it on. As Shen Xingyan's instructions were modified successfully, Wang Ke, who was a little confused just now, also recovered. It didn't move at all, and all the little skeletons returned to their normal working state. Shen Xingyan was not surprised by Wang Ke's operation and just thought that they had a special way of communication. Looking at the little skeletons that had recovered, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but secretly thought, fortunately, I was there and nothing went wrong. If this situation had happened when I was not around, the first punishment from Xingyuan might have come. After sighing, Shen Xingyan looked at the 2 prompts hanging above his head and felt uncomfortable no matter how he thought about it. Since he started farming, with the help of the little skeletons, he had never been threatened like this. Feeling a little annoyed, he simply gave an order directly to Wang Ke, pass it on. Except for this acre of wheat, all other fields will temporarily abandon intensive planting. Give it your all. Wang Ke, who was wearing a straw hat, seemed to have felt the anger from his master. He shook his skull slightly, and all the other little skeletons seemed to be given a buff, and their working movements obviously became much faster. This phenomenon made Shen Xingyan nod his head with satisfaction. Special methods must be used in special times, and farming cannot be too conservative. Just as he lowered his head to continue working, an astonishing scene suddenly appeared before his eyes. He saw the number -1 appearing above the heads of all the little skeletons he saw. This made him open his eyes suddenly, his face filled with confusion, puzzlement, and disbelief. He couldn't believe what was happening before his eyes. Why did all the little skeletons, including Wang Ke, have a drop of blood deducted for no reason? This question began to echo in Shen Xingyan's mind. Although he had never eaten pork, he had seen pigs walk. Shen Xingyan recognized the -1 prompt at a glance. It was the prompt for blood loss in the Xingyuan world. Then a pessimistic thought began to emerge in his mind, this is unbearable. The little skeletons only have 10 points of health. If they continue to lose health like this, the little skeletons that I have summoned for more than 10 days will disappear. Not to mention the future 10,000 strong skeleton army, it's even difficult to maintain the current state. Chapter 46. The next thought popped up in Shen Xingyan's mind, if the little skeleton continued to lose blood like this, wouldn't his capable General Wang Ke also leave him? This result made him feel a little panic, he really couldn't accept it. After all, after spending so much time together, Shen Xingyan has already regarded Wang Ke as his real person. This can be seen from the first point that he bought him a hat. His attitude towards Wang Ke is completely different from that towards other little skeletons. After thinking so much, Shen Xingyan felt that he was a little worried and confused. Realizing this, he quickly discarded this pessimistic idea and forced himself to calm down. Shen Xingyan took a deep breath and calmed down. He also grasped the key point of the problem. He knew that the top priority now was to find out the real reason why the little skeletons were losing blood and see if it could be solved. If the problem can be solved successfully, then this will be just a false alarm at best. Shen Xingyan observed the surrounding environment with sharp eyes, trying to see if there were any monsters around that caused this situation. He had seen relevant documents when he was reading materials before. It was said that when the farmer profession reached a certain level, monsters that destroyed the farmland would appear. It's just that these monsters are generally weak, and farmers can easily deal with them. At that time, Shen Xingyan felt that he was not able to get in touch with these aspects at his current level, so he did not learn too much about them. However, the current situation forced him to think of this possibility. Combined with the fact that the fertilization task that just appeared was inconsistent with the data, Shen Xingyan subconsciously felt that the information in the data was wrong again. It's not the character level that is reached, but the seed level. If the little skeleton lost blood because the second level seeds he planted attracted some small monsters, it is possible. After all, their overall attributes are all one, and even the weakest monsters can cause damage to them. With this in mind, Shen Xingyan began to look around to see if it was as he guessed. However, after looking around, he did not find any signs of monsters. The fact that no monster appeared meant that his previous idea was not valid, which made Shen Xingyan frown tightly. Since it's not the monster's fault, and I just checked and didn't find any other places that could pose a threat to the little skeletons, then we can only look for the cause from the little skeletons themselves. Thinking of this, an idea popped up in Shen Xingyan's mind, and this idea made him feel a little nervous. Could it be that the time for the little skeletons to stay here is almost up, and they are leaving by losing blood? As soon as Shen Xingyan had this thought, his heart immediately tightened. If it was some external reason, he could still find ways to prevent it from happening. Even if it was a monster, he could just spend a lot of money to buy them a safe house from Xingyuan Mall, and once a monster attacked or there were other unfavorable factors, he would let them hide in the safe house. But if the truth of the matter was what he had just thought, he would be completely helpless even if he racked his brains. The surprise brought by the skeleton summoning skill had made him full of confidence and ambition for such a long time. Now that the time has come, he can only regard it as a wonderful fantasy. It is time to wake up. The emergence of this thought made Shen Xingyan feel a little depressed. At this time, he no longer cared about the maintenance task of Xingyuan. He slowly walked to Wang Ke's side, gently stroked its little skull, and felt a little sad. Seeing the -1 health loss prompt floating above Wang Ke's head again, Shen Xingyan felt the pain of losing a companion. Sentiment filled Shen Xingyan's whole body. He slowly opened Wang Ke's attribute panel and wanted to take another look at it. Name, Wang Ke, can be modified. Owner, Shen Xingyan. Race, undead. Skill, frenzy, hidden skill, hidden and unviewable under normal conditions. Strength, 2, temporary, agility, 2 points, temporary, constitution, 2 points, temporary, spirit, 2 points, temporary, HP, 18/20 points, temporary, 1 HP is restored every 10 hours, physical attack, 2 points, temporary, spell attack, 2 points, temporary, defense, 2 points. Temporary, speed, 2 points, temporary, note, can perform various combat actions according to the summoner's instructions. Status, frenzy status, consumes 1 HP per minute, making all attributes plus 1 point, the status stops when the remaining HP reaches the minimum consumption value, cooling time 48 hours, Shen Xingyan, who was in so much pain that he was about to cry, immediately raised his head and froze when he saw the attribute of wealth. After rubbing his eyes and carefully reading the introduction of Wang Ke's attribute panel, his mood, which had just fallen to the bottom, suddenly took off like a rocket and soared into the sky. The originally gloomy mood was instantly bathed in the sunshine and became unusually beautiful. You little brat, you really scared me to death, you know that. When did you learn the hidden skills? I told you to work with all your strength, but you still don't know how to use them, right? Shen Xingyan laughed and cursed while wiping the tears from the corners of his eyes. At this moment, he was completely not thinking about anything else. He hugged the little skeleton and rocked him around, his excitement beyond words. Wang Ke looked at his owner going crazy in a cute way, and with his little head he didn't quite understand what his owner's instructions meant. Shen Xingyan expressed his excitement until the word -2 floated above Wang Ke's head, and he stopped in fright. It was a close call. I almost killed you in my excitement. After Shen Xingyan put Wang Ke down, he quickly took a step back to distance himself from Wang Ke. He patted his chest with some lingering fear. The 2 points of blood that were deducted just now scared him. After experiencing this little episode, Shen Xingyan recalled his mysterious actions just now, as if he had truly demonstrated what it meant to scare himself. Fortunately, there were no outsiders here, otherwise he would have been so ashamed that he would have found a hole to crawl into. It would have been too embarrassing. I am not just worried and confused, I am going crazy. How can I have so many thoughts? If I had known earlier, I should have checked Wang Ke's attributes immediately, then the embarrassing thing just now would not have happened. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan felt so ashamed that he almost wanted to tap his toes. He turned back to where he was working and started to use farm work to ease the embarrassment. It was not until he calmed down for a while that his flushed face returned to its previous state. Chapter 47. Shen Xingyan came out of the state of anxiety and felt very happy. He felt that he had had a very exciting day. Although he knew that a large part of the reason was due to his own wild imagination, fortunately the final result was good, which was already very good. After this exciting feeling, Shen Xingyan began to become curious about the hidden skills of the little skeletons. I checked the description of summoning skeletons in my attribute panel, but did not find any information about frenzy skills. Moreover, when he checked Wang Kei's attributes before, the skill column had always shown no status. But now a hidden skill suddenly appeared, which made him feel surprised and confused at the same time. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but frown slightly, searching hard for information about hidden skills in his mind. However, the final result was that not a single piece of information was found in this regard. What is taught in school courses, apart from practical application, is some basic knowledge, and advanced content in this area is rarely involved. The materials he had studied did not mention this aspect, and he had never heard anyone else talk about it. Shen Xingyan was somewhat puzzled. After thinking for a while, he could not come up with any ideas, so he gave up the exploration. After all, only more than 100 years have passed since the explosion of atomic energy. The world today is completely different from before. There is a lot of knowledge that is unknown to humans or is only in the hands of a very small number of people. What is now presented to mankind is just the tip of the iceberg of this world. Although he stopped thinking in his mind, Shen Xingyan still tried to search for the 4 words hidden skills from the Shen Yuan Mall, wanting to see what kind of inspiration the almost omnipotent Shen Yuan Mall would give him. But the final result was a string of cold text: "You are not authorized to view relevant information." Although Shen Xingyan had anticipated this result, he was still somewhat disappointed. But thinking about it, it was normal. If he could search for relevant information with his current authority, it would be impossible for him not to have access to this information in reality. I can only wait until I reach a higher level and then see what this hidden skill is all about. Shen Xingyan sighed secretly in his heart. Thinking that his little skeleton actually possessed mysterious hidden skills, Shen Xingyan looked at Wang Kei and the others with more and more surprise. It was also the first time that he began to wonder where these little skeletons were summoned from. What kind of place would that be, that even such weak little skeletons would possess such skills? If he hadn't been in a hurry just now and ordered the little skeleton to work with all his strength, and the order was issued by Wang Kei, whom he trusted the most, he probably still wouldn't have discovered this hidden skill. However, Shen Xingyan also knew that it was meaningless to think about these things now. The work efficiency of the little skeletons was improved, which was a real good thing. With the precedent of Wang Kei, Shen Xingyan also checked the other little skeletons and found that their attributes were exactly the same as Wang Kei's. They were all in a frenzy state, and their overall attributes were temporarily increased by 1 point. Still feeling somewhat worried, he carefully checked the final result of this hidden skill, and only after careful consideration did he feel completely relieved. The introduction of the Berserk skill is very clear. It consumes 1 point of health every minute until the little skeletons have only 1 point of health left, then the Berserk skill will automatically stop. However, a health value of 1 point does not have much impact on the little skeletons. After all, they are a group of beings without physical limits. Naturally, they will not become weak like these professionals because of the reduction in blood volume. Furthermore, during these 20 minutes, all of their attributes will be increased by +1, which is equivalent to twice their own attributes. Although the fundamental reason is that their basic attributes are too weak, for Shen Xingyan, this improvement is still very amazing. Even though the little skeletons with this skill are placed on the battlefield, they are nothing more than a group of stronger cannon fodder. But in this planting space, this skill is like a magical skill. Not only can it more than double the work efficiency of the little skeletons, but it can also provide strong support when encountering special situations like the current one. This timely skill is invaluable to Shen Xingyan. However, this skill also has its shortcomings, that is, the cooling time is too long, it actually takes 2 full days. There is no way for the little skeleton to use it frequently to improve efficiency, which is not good. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan suddenly had an idea in his mind. He immediately opened the Shen Yuan Mall and quickly bought a bottle of the lowest level blood recovery potion, the kind that can slowly restore 100 blood points in 1 minute. The price is also cheap, only 200 copper coins. Shen Xingyan took out the blood restoring potion and walked in front of Wang Kei, subconsciously intending to give it to him to see if he could restore blood and go berserk at the same time. If this was possible, then this berserk skill could truly be called a magical skill. But Shen Xingyan immediately stopped the action and prepared to switch to another little skeleton for testing. After all, he didn't know whether this experiment would cause any harm to the little skeleton. It's better to be safe than sorry, and his capable men couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Then he walked to another little skeleton and asked it to drink the blood restoring potion. He opened the other party's attribute panel and observed it. Seeing the little skeleton drink the potion according to his instructions, Shen Xingyan rubbed his hands subconsciously and stared at the attribute panel with some anticipation. However, the little skeleton in front of him who had taken the blood restoring potion did not react at all, and Shen Xingyan did not see any numbers pop up indicating an increase in blood volume. The same goes for the health value in its attribute panel, there is no response. 1 minute had passed, and the recovery time of the blood replenishing potion had expired. Shen Xingyan still did not receive a blood replenishing prompt, but instead received a prompt from Shen Yuan, the current summon is not suitable for blood recovery potions, and the recovery is invalid. The appearance of this prompt made Shen Xingyan, who was trying to find a bug, completely give up. He shook his head in disappointment and thought, it seems that I was just daydreaming. This idea failed, and Shen Xingyan calmed down. Since there was no loophole, he would wait until the skeleton army was developed and expanded. By then, even without this skill, the little skeletons would be able to cope with various challenges. Chapter 48. When Shen Xingyan had all kinds of wild ideas because of the emergence of the hidden skill frenzy, a slight vibration occurred in a mysterious and strange world of the dead that was vaguely connected to the Star Wish world. In the world of the dead, a magnificent and imposing huge magic castle rises into the clouds. This magic castle seems to be condensed by the power of darkness, exuding a heart-pounding breath. And on the top floor of this magic castle, there is an extremely luxurious and magnificent throne. At this moment, the greatest ruler who controlled the entire undead world was sitting there resting peacefully. His occasional panting sound shook the entire magic castle, making all the undead here silent and terrified. The ruler of the world of the dead is tall and mighty, with a layer of vague black mist covering his body, making it difficult to see his true face. Suddenly, this powerful being who was still sleeping seemed to sense some strange fluctuations. I saw his eyes, which had been closed for a long time, trembled slightly, as if he was about to wake up from a long sleep. Tiny rays of light flickered under his tightly closed eyelids, revealing a mysterious power. However, after flickering a few times, this ray of light began to slowly dissipate, and darkness once again filled the entire magic castle. The big demons standing on the lower level, who were feared by the outside world, were like weak and innocent children at this moment. Facing this breath that seemed to be able to crush them easily, they dared not even breathe. Only after they confirmed that the ruler had entered a state of rest again did their tense bodies relax a little. But they dared not make any sound. They just stood there quietly, like sculptures in this magic castle, decorating it. At this time in the Xingyan world, Shen Xingyan had already abandoned the experimental results and ideas that had frustrated him, and put all his mind into working in the fields. Now Shen Xingyan's little skeletons were in a frenzy, and he was fully committed to the work, so the maintenance prompts of Xingyan slowed down in the short period of 20 minutes, from the seemingly endless task releases at the beginning. It can be said that the Berserk skill played a vital role in this emergency response. The obvious sign that the maintenance task prompts were slowing down was that the double prompts hanging over Shen Xingyan's head disappeared. Now, above the farmland, there is only a prompt floating there quietly as before, as if praising Shen Xingyan and letting him know that the efforts of him and the little skeletons have not been in vain, and the crop yield has been saved this time. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but laugh when he saw this scene, thinking, I finally got through the most difficult time, and it will be much easier next time. Seeing that the crisis was over, he quickly wiped the sweat from his face and took a few deep breaths to relieve the fatigue caused by this high-intensity work. As he has limited physical strength, working at full strength will consume a lot of physical energy, and he is helpless about this situation. Shen Xingyan looked at the little skeletons that had now recovered from their frenzy and couldn't help but feel envious. Now the health of all the little skeletons including Wang Ke has become 1 point, but even so, they are still working as before, without any intention of stopping. Without physical strength restrictions, I can really do whatever I want. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but sigh. The attribute of the little skeletons not having physical strength constraints is really convenient, and he also wants it. Shen Xingyan saw that he had used up nearly half of his physical strength, so he quickly bought 3 buns and started eating them. He held the buns in one hand and carried the bucket for irrigation in the other, without any delay. Although this behavior of his could not achieve the maximum value in restoring physical strength, and even after reaching a certain level, eating and drinking could no longer play any role in restoring physical strength and he could only rest, but he had no choice but to do this for now. After more than 5 hours of hard work by Shen Xingyan and the little skeletons, the frequency of maintenance tasks finally stabilized. According to Shen Xingyan's estimation, the farmland can now be completely handed over to the little skeletons for maintenance. It was not until this time that he dragged his tired body to the edge of the field to rest. He sat on the ground while eating a bun, looking at the little skeletons who were still working slowly in the fields, and smiled knowingly. Having you around is my greatest blessing. Shen Xingyan murmured softly. Thanks to the little skeleton's berserk skills, Shen Xingyan, who had originally planned not to have time to rest today, can now have a good sleep. Slowly, Shen Xingyan's eyes, which had begun to fight, slowly closed and he fell asleep. In his dream, he seemed to have encountered something good. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Slowly, light snoring began to echo in the silent planting space. The little skeleton is working, but the owner of the farmland is sleeping. If other farmers see this, they will probably not stop until their hearts break. You have to know that they work hard to manage an acre of land. Not to mention taking a rest, as long as they close their eyes for a short while, they have to open their eyes quickly to see if the maintenance reminder of Xingyan has appeared again, not to mention snoring in their sleep. This kind of infuriating scene would probably make even other professionals sigh that this guy is so lucky and really deserves a beating. Wang Ke, who was working in the fields, shook his skull and saw his master sleeping beside the field. He couldn't help but tilt his head. A glimmer of light seemed to flash in his empty eyes, but it quickly disappeared, as if this abnormality had never appeared, and he continued to carry out his work and the supervisor's instructions. As time passed, the maintenance prompts of this farmland were completely conquered by the little skeletons. The interval between 2 maintenance reminders became longer and longer. During this interval, Wang Ke would often bring the little skeletons to guard Shen Xingyan. At this moment, they are like loyal knights who never get bored, strictly abiding by their guarding duties that seem like instinct. Their positions are also vaguely led by Wang Ke, spreading out from the inside to the outside, but there are too few of them now, so it is difficult to see much. Clues. Chapter 49. As time passed slowly, the crops in the planting space became more and more vibrant. If other farmers were to see their growth, they would probably be filled with envy. In the farmland, if it weren't for the little skeleton's work making some noise from time to time, this space seemed to be so quiet forever. In such an environment, Shen Xingyan slept very soundly. The fatigue of his body seemed to dissipate faster, and his spirit recovered quickly. It was not until Shen Xingyan felt that his spirit had become extremely full that his sleepiness automatically disappeared and he naturally woke up from his sleep. When he just woke up, he saw a group of little skeletons surrounding him, looking ready for battle. And he seemed to be accustomed to the scene and did not feel frightened at all. After rubbing his sleepy eyes, he smiled with relief. When he slept here before, Wang Ke and the others would often do this, as if it was an instinct to be summoned. As long as there were no instructions to be followed, they would stand around him. And he would not deliberately order the little skeletons to leave. After all, they were protected like this while he slept. Even though he was protected by a group of undead creatures, this behavior still made him feel very warm. Shen Xingyan sat up and immediately checked the current status of the farmland. He saw the comfortable and open sky above the farmland. There was no sign of any maintenance reminder, which made him feel refreshed. I believe that every farmer who sees this scene will have the same feeling as Shen Xingyan does now. Looking down, the crops also seemed to be growing vigorously. Shen Xingyan smiled with great satisfaction after checking. Wang Ke, well done, you are really my right-hand man. Shen Xingyan stood up, rubbed Wang Ke's head with a straw hat, and said with a smile. Shen Xingyan was not at all surprised that Wang Ke and the others could maintain the farmland to such an extent. After all, the little skeletons had proved their strength with practical actions time and time again. Now he just felt sincerely happy. Then Shen Xingyan stretched his body and felt relaxed both physically and mentally. He thought that if he returned to the real world in this state, he would just need to eat something to fill his stomach and then go directly to the training hall to exercise. Shen Xingyan feels that his work and rest schedule of resting online and exercising offline should be a rare one among all professionals. Just when he was feeling good, the offline countdown of the Star Source world began to flash before his eyes, reminding him that it was time to leave again. Happy times are always so short. It's time to say goodbye again. Wang Ke, manage this farmland well according to my previous instructions, okay? Shen Xingyan coaxed Wang Ke like a child. Then he seemed to have thought of something, and hurriedly walked to the wooden board he had purchased before, took out the fertilizer he had bought from the backpack space and piled it on it. He then clapped his hands and explained the fertilization matter to Wang Ke. He was not afraid that Wang Ke would mess things up because he didn't understand. After experiencing the psychological activity of being confused due to worry today, Shen Xingyan realized how important Wang Ke was to him, and it didn't matter even if something went wrong. Moreover, Wang Ke's previous performance seemed extremely reliable to him, which was also an important factor that made him feel at ease. Seeing that everything in the planting space had been explained, Shen Xingyan said goodbye to Wang Ke and the others, and then took the initiative to withdraw from the Star Wish world. With the lessons learned from the last time, he didn't want to experience the feeling of being kicked out of the Star Source world again. In the planting space, Wang Ke looked at his master who disappeared again, and did not look around like the other little skeletons, looking for Shen Xingyan. It just paused for a moment, then slowly returned to the place where Shen Xingyan had just slept. It imitated Shen Xingyan's appearance, slowly sat down, and stared at the sky above the farmland with empty eyes. When the other little skeletons saw Wang Ke taking action, they stopped looking around and slowly walked to his back and stood side by side, also looking at the sky above the farmland, as if there were enemies there that they needed to deal with. Shen Xingyan returned to the real world and the first thing he felt was his stomach starting to feel rumbling. This feeling was very familiar to him, so he got up without hesitation and went to the kitchen to make some food to fill his stomach. Shen Xingyan, who was eating, suddenly remembered something he had neglected. He seemed to be so busy with farm work in the planting space that he even forgot to send his sister to school. When thinking of this, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but start to worry, and at the same time he also blamed himself for being careless. After all, he still remembers yesterday's incident vividly. Although it can be seen from the trophy Bodhi leaf obtained yesterday that the appearance of the giant rat is most likely an isolated case, we cannot take it lightly. Shen Xingyan slapped his forehead. I was so tired that I even forgot about this. With this current situation and all the random thoughts he had in the Xingyan world, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but start to wonder if this was the after effect of using the perception skill. But now he didn't have time to worry about it. He quickly stuffed some food into his mouth, picked up 2 buns, ate them, and ran towards the school in a hurry. When he passed by the place where he fought with the giant rat yesterday, he could still vaguely sense some traces, but after nearly a day, a lot of them had dissipated, and the traces he had deliberately arranged before had almost completely disappeared. Thinking that they had gotten through last night safely, the probability of any risk occurring had dropped sufficiently low, and even if someone came looking for them in the future, they would not associate them with anything. After this thought flashed through his mind, Shen Xingyan felt much more at ease. While running, I couldn't help but sigh. It seems that the facts have proved that being weak is the original sin no matter where you are. In the Star Source world, if the little skeletons you own are not powerful enough, let alone dealing with emergencies in the Star Source world, I am afraid that the reward given by Star Source will become a disaster that causes mission stagnation. This is even more true in the real world. Even if you are lucky enough to obtain a priceless item by chance, but you do not have the strength to match it, the final result is predictable. If you want good luck to come to you, you must also have the strength to accept this luck. Chapter 50. As the saying goes, a thief can steal for 1,000 days, but you can't guard against thieves for 1,000 days. No one can hide their secrets perfectly. Only by hiding the secret and using every opportunity to quickly improve one's own strength, making those who covet it fearful and even afraid to think about it, can one protect oneself to the greatest extent. Shen Xingyan secretly warned himself in his heart that he must not be too lazy in the future. Shen Xingyan, whose thoughts were flying all the way, arrived at the school gate. He hid his thoughts, sorted out his mood, and greeted the teacher on duty at the gate with a smile. Having been in school for more than 10 years, he knew almost every teacher, but the closeness of their relationship varied slightly. Although he has awakened his profession now, he has not officially graduated yet. He needs to wait until the trial is over in 20 days and go through the school graduation process before he can officially leave school. Strictly speaking, he is still a student of this school, and the restrictions on outsiders do not apply to him. The teacher on duty at this time naturally knew Shen Xingyan. After all, Shen Xingyan was also a prominent figure in the school before. The teachers had relatively deep memories of this type of students. It was just that looking at Shen Xingyan's appearance, the teacher on duty felt a little sorry. After getting the approval of the teacher on duty, Shen Xingyan walked towards the training venue where his sister was. After more than 10 years of school life, Shen Xingyan is very familiar with every tree and grass in the school. He doesn't bother to sigh about these things, and comes to the training venue of his sister's current stage with ease. Shen Xingyan stood at the entrance of the venue and looked around for a while. Only when he saw his sister exercising seriously did he feel relieved. He did not disturb his sister's exercise. After looking at her a few more times, he slowly left. Walking slowly on the familiar main road of the school, Shen Xingyan's suppressed sigh just now also rose up, especially when he saw some scenery with special meaning, which made him feel a lot of emotion in his heart. Although he had only been away from school for a dozen days, the school now gave him a feeling that everything had changed. Not long ago, he was an excellent student in school. At that time, he was thinking about how to integrate what the school taught and how to break through the physical limits he had reached at that time. But now, more than 10 days later, his thoughts and ideas have changed a lot, or it can be said that they are no longer as pure as before. After his career awakening, he saw more things and his life became much more exciting. The loss of the awakened farmer profession, the motivation of 2 powerful skills, the breaking of the star source record, and yesterday's unexpected surprise, all made him see a different side of the world. But at the same time, he also shouldered more responsibilities. The peaceful and harmonious life in the star source world made him, who had been living in the shadow of the real world for a long time, feel very fascinated. It's a pity that the outside world is now an environment full of disasters, and he has a blood feud, which means that he is destined to be unable to live his life like ordinary farmers, planting crops, sleeping, and living a comfortable and muddled life. When Shen Xingyan was marveling at these changes, he suddenly felt his Xing card begin to vibrate. He immediately had a guess in his mind, and when he took it out, he saw that it was just as he expected. It was a call from Chu Wei. Shen Xingyan, have you forgotten about me? I haven't called you in so many days. Are you still alive? Hey. Shen Xingyan had just answered Chu Wei's call when he heard Chu Wei's hurried shouting from the other side. Chu Wei's shouting instantly made Shen Xingyan's slightly melancholy sigh disappear, as if it brought him back to the days when he was in school. Shen Xingyan felt the different mood now and couldn't help but smile. It is such a blessing in my life to have a good desk mate like Chu Wei. Then he quickly comforted her. She must be alive, otherwise you wouldn't be able to get through. What's wrong? Why are you so angry? Who pd you off? Who else has offended me? Who else could it be? It must be you. Didn't you say you would give me a few pounds of new grain when you harvested it? What? Did you forget so quickly? You praised me so much that I was worried about you. Do you know how long I have been waiting for these few pounds of grain from you? Ah. At this time, Chu Wei on the other end of the communication was like an angry lion, constantly venting her anger to the Xing card. If her teammates in the Xing world saw their usually wise and calm boss showing this state towards a man, their jaws would probably drop to the ground. The purpose of Chu Wei making this call was naturally not for the few pounds of food she mentioned, but because Shen Xingyan had not taken the initiative to call her for such a long time, which made her feel that she was not taken seriously enough, and she needed to vent some of her anger. Chu Wei's shouts instantly brought Shen Xingyan back to school, reminding him of how Chu Wei looked when she was angry, and a look of reminiscence appeared on his face. Shen Xingyan had naturally encountered a situation similar to Chu Wei's current one at that time, and to deal with Chu Wei in this mode, all Shen Xingyan could do was to give in. Experience has taught him that if he confronts someone head-on, he might end up getting angry. Shen Xingyan smiled and said, calm down, calm down. How could I forget? I've just been too busy lately. You know how farmers work. There's a lot of farm work, and it takes a lot of energy. Don't worry, I'll definitely give it to you next time we meet. After Shen Xingyan's consolation, Chu Wei, who was originally looking for a sense of importance, immediately calmed down and began to ask Shen Xingyan about his recent life, whether he had enough money, and other topics. Although Shen Xingyan couldn't tell the other party his true situation, he still told the other party that his output was higher than that of a normal farmer to reassure him. After hearing about Shen Xingyan's fruitful harvest, Chu Wei was also very happy and quickly praised. I said, people like you are the best at everything you do. Then she shared with Shen Xingyan some interesting things she had encountered recently and some special monsters. At this time, Chu Wei, who was eloquent, really showed her excellent eloquence, which was completely different from the way she treated outsiders with words as precious as gold. Shen Xingyan also walked slowly and acted as a patient listener. The current communication mode between the two seemed to have returned to the memorable times in the past. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.